I've got a letter from Universal Studios. I've got a letter from Universal Studios, right? And then it frightened me, and they pay £20 pools and then don't even go to the packs.
No.
Do you get that? Okay, if you don't want to win the 50 quid section prize and you want to gravel and dust it and go, then fine, it's a free country, do what you want. And he won't mind me saying this, Jamie Hughes. Right, I remember at...
You know what I'm going to ask you about, don't you?
Yeah, but I might not answer you.
All right.
Bowl dancing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, our listeners have turned the podcast right up now.
Surgeon was sat there and got my daughter with me, youngest daughter, and he's gone, "You've got prostate cancer," just like that. Jesus Christ. And I wept like a baby.
Wow.
I wept like a baby.
The Fishing Gurus Podcast.
Every time he touches the keyboard there, it's like a bass drum.
It is,
I didn't know
isn't
if
it?
it was someone on treadmill upstairs or
No,
not.
it's you.
Is it me?
Yeah. Just going through the table like that.
Right.
isn't
Okay. Are we ready then? Shall we go?
Yeah.
Are we recording?
We are.
Can I put my clock on?
it? Yeah. Oh, no.
See, this is what I'm dealing with. We're meant to be recording a podcast. He's not even put my clock on.
Have I left you the remote?
Yeah, you have. Shall I do it?
Yeah, I left it for you.
Go on, how do I press it?
The start.
Start.
It says
What,
start on it,
enter?
Matt.
It's not enter. Clock.
No, start.
Oh, it's tight. Stopwatch. Start. Right, we're going. Hey! Right, we're on.
Yep, that's staying in that.
When I've been listening to you, Phil, when we've been doing a little chat before, I think your voice is well suited to host like a quiz show, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something.
Are you saying to me I've wasted my life? That's what I should have really done in life.
Well, I don't know. If you look through these notes that I've got in front of me, I'm saying you've not wasted it, but I think you could have had a job where Jeremy Clarkson is now.
I could have been better than Jeremy Clarkson. I don't think I'd have been as good as the Tiswas guy. Who was it?
Chris Tarrant.
Chris Tarrant.
Yeah,
He was good. Chris Tarrant was good.
Fisherman Chris were, weren't he?
He was. That's
an
why he's
angler.
good, you see, because he goes fishing.
There we go.
You know, the other guy hasn't got a clue, has he?
No chance. Makes good beer now, though.
Yeah, he does. Loses his temper a bit, though.
He's a fiery one.
Yeah, he is.
He is a fiery one.
Bit like me.
See, you've got a lot in common. You've got so much experience in fishing, Phil. When were the first time you ever did or came across anything like this, or filming in fishing, or doing videos? When were the first time you appeared or did any of that?
Oh, back in the 70s. Back in the 70s.
As long ago as that?
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to tell you how I got into the industry, firstly?
Well, if I'm honest, I don't know how you got into the industry, and I don't know what your fishing background is in terms of angling, so hit me up.
Right, okay. Well, I've got two brothers. Both went to university. Both got a doctorship or a BA or whatever titles they got at university. I was the oddball. I didn't go to university. I wanted to get out into the big wide world. And I started off, I was always interested in selling, Matt, you know. And I started off skipping a few little jobs when I first started my career. I wanted to sell. And I was working for a company called Arrow Chemicals. They were based in Burton-on-Trent. And I was servicing the garage and transport industry. And I used to sell cleaning chemicals and pressure washers and stuff like that, you know, fuel additives and all sorts. And it's a great little job because you got big commission on what you sold. It was extortionately expensive, daylight robbery. But when you sold a barrel or something, I could go, it's Tuesday, I can have the rest of the week off.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I did. And one day I was summoned to Embry's Bakery in Stoke-on-Trent. That was my hometown. And I got the demonstrator coming out of the power washers. So I arranged all that, met him at Embry's Bakery, took the customer out to watch this demonstration on the pressure washer. Sold the pressure washer, fantastic. And then I said to the guy that was doing the dem for me, I said, where'd you get that suit from? What you've just been using for the dem? He said, oh, company supplies. And I said, can I have a look? And I thought, oh, I could sell these, you know, into the fishing tackle shops. So
What were it, like a waterproof thing, or
Well, it was a product called Dartex. Do you remember Dartex?
Dartex? Yeah.
Right, Dartex material from Derby and Ireland. It was a Cortals product, and it was a knitted back fabric with like a skin on it. 100% waterproof, but you had to weld the seams. Anyway, I got in touch with Arrow, and he said, yeah. How many do you want for that? I said, well, I don't know, a dozen or something like that. Okay, and they charged me for a dozen of these suits, and I promptly sold them.
What, into a fishing tackle shop?
Yeah, people I was using, you know, my own bait shop and that sort of thing. They say, have a look at this, like, I'll have a couple of them, and away we went. And I kept going back to Arrow, and they said, whoa, hang on. We're out of stock now. We've got none for the customer that wants to use one pressure washing and what have you. What are you doing with them? I said, I'm putting them into the fishing tackle industry. Oh, no, you can't be doing that. So I got dumped. Not sacked, but they wouldn't let me have these suits. So I made some inquiries, didn't I? And I researched it. And I mean, you didn't have the telephone and everything, the press button and all that. You know, you had to sort of ring people and ask questions. And anyway, I found out that Derby Nyla was doing this material, so I went across to see them. And like an idiot, I just went, well, I tell you what, I'll have 3 rolls of that green and 2 rolls of that blue. Got them delivered to my house in Stafford. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do with this now? I've got like 3-4 rolls of expensive material, and it wasn't cheap.
And were you still doing your normal job?
Yeah, still doing my normal job. Yeah, still doing my normal job. So I then moved on, and I thought, right, I'll go and see a company that does what they call cut, make and trim. So they made patterns, they cut your fabric, sew it up for you, and you got the finished item done by them, but under my management, call it what you will. And I met this little company in Congleton, and they cut it all up for me, and and there you go, and they stitched them up for me, and I thought, great, I've got some suits. Put one on. I said, chuck a bucket of water over. We chucked a bucket of water over, and I was bloody soaked. I mean saturated. And I said, well, why is that then? And then I realised, you've got to weld the seams. So I picked up the phone, spoke to Derby Nile, and I said, hey, I've got a load of suits here. I said, which we put together. I said, I've got to weld the seams. How do I do that? Well, you got to get yourself an arc welding machine. It was called an arc welding, high frequency arc welding machine. And it was about size of a mini, this thing was. Big piece of kit.
Yeah.
I've had that delivered to my garage in Stafford. I mean, can't get the car. I'm going to get my fishing kit in the garage now. And I've sat down, no tuition whatsoever. And I'll tell you, there was like 3 or 4 different blades that you screwed on. And then you brought it down with a handle like this. And then you press this button, like a clutch pedal.
You look like you're doing it now.
I'm doing it. I'm going to get burnt in a minute. Watch this. And I put my foot down on the weld, and it's welded the seam. And I thought, brilliant. So I'm lining up and welding. And then you get an intricate bit like, I've got to change that for a curved blade. And I put this curved blade on, and you had to feed it in. And as you feed it in my finger went as well. And I brought this blade down. Oh my God. It burned from the bone back. Honestly.
Oh, God.
Well, within a matter of 2 hours, I looked like, my hands looked like Elephant Man. They weren't recognisable. It was like, what the? So I spoke to the cut, make and trim people. I said, right, I'll give you a few lessons on this machine, and took the machine across. They started making them for me. Now, I suppose, if I'm going to be absolutely honest, for every one that was good, they burnt 4 of them.
What, ruined them?
Ruined them. Totally ruined them.
Right.
It was a learning curve, a very expensive one. Anyway, we started to get it right, and I'm selling these Dartex suits. Now, the old school angler out there is going to remember Dartex suits, right? And with that, I said, come on, we'll make some bomber jackets, and we'll make some full woolly bear suits. I called them the baby grow suits.
Is this just you with this company?
There was nobody making baby grow suits other than me in the UK. I started it.
Wow.
And the bomber jackets, you go back, in fact, I looked on this the other day, and it brings up your old results, doesn't it? 1992, 1990 results and that. And I pulled up, do you recognise this? And it was the England international team fishing at Evesham, or somewhere at Evesham, on the River Avon.
Yeah.
And they came third that year, if I'm not mistaken, in the World Championships.
Yeah.
And I went across and I saw Stan
Smith. Stan Smith.
And I spoke to what was then the angling, not the Angling Trust, they were
NFA.
called NFA.
Yeah.
And I said, I'd like to supply these to the England team. Can I do it? Yeah. And I got all the England team in my gear. And that was my launch. From that point then...
I didn't know that.
Well,
I didn't even know that's where you started with this clothing thing.
Yeah, I had 2 or 3 years at it and I absolutely blasted it. And my advertising was massive. Cut a long story short, I was selling too much too quickly and I've gone, I'm worried about the cash flow here. And cash flow did become tight because I did get, even in them days, accounts that didn't pay, probably because all the Dartex suits were leaking all over the universe, you know. But that's how I started.
I think that's incredible from where you actually started.
Yeah.
Like, even just figuring out how to use that machine is like...
I'm telling you, you know, I look like something off the programme's Viking, you know, where they got that many scars. It was like unbelievable.
And did you ever get any other people involved, or was it just you working with the externals?
It was me, that cut, make and trim company that I first went to, I actually bought them out. I actually bought out the staff. And never, ever get involved with sewing machinists because they are absolutely murder. If they have a good day, they put the pockets on straight. If they have a bad day, your pockets are on your back or something. You know, I'm going, what the? And of course, a lot of this stuff, especially the waterproof stuff, you can't take a pocket off once it's been stitched because you punctured the waterproofness of the fabric. So when I decided I was going to pack it in finally, but everybody knew me from that point. Now everybody knew the clothing, and I reckon if it had carried it on with it, it would have been a very, very big brand indeed. But I decided, no, I've had enough of this, and I got a call then off a really nice guy called Julian Pardo. Now, to all the youngsters watching this, they won't know who the hell Julian Pardo was. You don't know Julian.
I've heard the name, but I couldn't, until we've sat down and had a chat, I couldn't tell you who he was or what he did.
Right. Well, meeting this guy called Julian Pardo was probably the start of something. Well, it was start of something great for me because them years, I mean, I'm talking like mid-70s, is when I got involved with the clothing and everything else. I went to a company called East Anglian Rod Company around about 1983 or something like that. So I'd done my time with the clothing, knew Julian from the trade, and he said, Phil, come down and see me. I'm looking for a general manager. So down I go to Newmarket in Suffolk. Had a long interview with Julian, and he said, I'm going to get a trial period, Phil. Now, bearing in mind, I'm living in Stafford at the time, or Stoke-on-Trent area, if you like.
Long way, that,
Long way. So I couldn't travel that every day. So I was staying in a hotel for 6 or 8 months. That's how long my trial period was, because he was a stickler for detail and everything else, you know.
A 6 or 8 month trial period?
6 or 8 month trial period. I thought, I'm not going to get this job.
You must have wanted it to stay there that long.
Well, the tackle trade was a very, very difficult trade to get into, and I lived and breathed fishing. So for me, it was the perfect job, you know. And cutting a long story short, I got the job, which then meant at the time I could move sticks, buy a house, and stop travelling. So down to East Anglia I go.
Had you got family in that, Phil? Did you have to relocate them or anything like that?
Well, I was courting at the time and we were engaged, and when I got the job with East Anglian Rod Company, we got married and moved down.
Wow.
So that was the start. And both my girls were born, both my daughters were born in East Anglia. If they were boys, they could have played for Cambridgeshire cricket, couldn't they? You know what I mean?
Could have an all.
Yeah. But one was born in the RAF hospital in Ely, and the other one in the Rosie at Cambridge.
See, I never knew that you'd been down there even.
Well,
I didn't even know about this bracket of your time.
Well, I tell you what, it was... Once I was down there, taking aside the job, which I loved, which I'll go into in a bit, the fishing down there for me was mackerel. I mean, look, all I ever did and a lot of it was canal fishing in them days. I used to fish the Shropshire Union Canal. I used to fish Trent and Mersey Canal. Any canal I would travel to, and it was all bloodworm and joker.
So it were match fishing. You've always been a match angler.
Yeah, always. I mean, any style of fishing I like, but I mean, I used to do nothing else other than match fishing, and it was bloodworm and joker.
Right.
So there lies another story about me collecting bloodworm and joker, but perhaps we'll touch on that in a bit. I had some very, very happy years with the East Anglian Rod Company, and Julian Pardo taught me an awful lot.
What was your role and what did it involve at this company? Tell us a little bit about what this company did.
Well, the East Anglian Rod Company was Britain's largest general wholesaler. It had its own brands as well, but it was basically, taking stock of everybody's brand that wanted the distribution doing. So
in fishing.
Right. So we had hundreds of suppliers, mainly UK suppliers in them days. But we started, Julian was doing it way before I joined the company, but he brought me into this as well, and I was travelling the Far East as well, and bringing in product. Not many companies in them days were actually using, in fact, nobody was using China when I was there. It was all Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan. That's who we were seeing. China wasn't even thought of in them days. But the majority of product that we were stocking and distributing to the shops was English-made product.
Right. So you must have been quite young at that point, travelling across to China.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I was about 34 was my first trip to China, and he took me out for 3 weeks. And I mean, he was a slave driver. He was a slave driver, trust me. We'd get off the plane, fair play to him, Julian would say, as soon as you get off this aeroplane, you're going to be going into a meeting. And you'd be on the aeroplane for 14 hours or whatever, and you get off the aeroplane and there'd be a limo waiting at the airport in whatever country we landed in, and you'd be whisked straight off to a meeting, and you couldn't keep your eyes open. You were lagged and you were just at it. So we always used to go out and come back business class, always.
Right.
So you felt a bit better. You'd try and sleep,
Yeah.
And yeah.
Sounds a bit posh, this. Business class. Limos.
Oh, well, you always get a limo when you're going to see customers in China, Korea, or wherever it may be. They always send a nice car to pick you up.
Right.
And we get any spare time, you'd have 3 or 4 meetings a day, get home about 5 o'clock on the evening, and Julian would say, we've got time on our hands, get the computer sheets out, and he'd be saying, right, let's go through these, let's see what we've got to get rid of, let's see what's selling, let's see what, movements we've got to do with the stock. You think, Christ almighty, can I just have a cup of tea and a couple of hours kip, But he's never still. And really was a brilliant man. He for me, Julian Pardo was the king of the fishing tackle trade.
Would you say that probably rubbed off on you, his mentality? Because it sounds like he used to push hard.
Definitely 100%. I mean, coming away from Julian in the end, taught me such a lot, and it did teach me not to suffer fools gladly, to be as aggressive as you possibly could be in business. Don't leave any stones on, that haven't been turned over. You turn over every stone, you see what the problem is under that stone, and you get on and you do your job. There was, as I say, nothing that he would have missed, and I felt exactly the same. I had to mimic Julian Pardo.
What, for anyone listening, like out of curiosity, you talk about him distributing, lots of different company stuff. Any stick out in your mind that people listening might go, oh, I remember that company, or I remember that little brand, or I remember that range of products? What did he used to distribute? Whose stuff was it? Is there anything that we'd know about?
Well, yeah. I mean, there was red glass poles, Maver poles.
Yeah.
But they were called red glass poles in them days. That was from the Italian company in Italy, obviously. There were certain rods, his own brand, like Highline. He did a lot of Highline branded products. That was his. name for these particular rods. But the majority of product would have been DAM or Sunridge product or Maxima line. It was all the brands
Got you.
being distributed by this company. So it was a very, very popular company to deal with. You only needed one account to get virtually everything you needed.
Got you.
You know.
Just a massive catalogue
Yeah.
of loads of different stuff, and they could open it up and go, I'll have 10 of them, one of them, and just order it from one place.
Exactly. And it was always in stock. He used to pride himself in his stock levels. And in modern day, to say you got like 96% stock availability is what he used to work to. Too much stock.
But
It's too much stock, but it was rarely out of stock of anything.
and one of the biggest things that we hear and you hear in the fishing industry nowadays is, well, you've never got anything in stock, or that's what I want and it's not in stock, because it
What-
makes you wonder.
What's the point of promoting something you haven't got?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
He'd always got it. And the day he said to me, and I remember it like it was tomorrow, Phil, the company's been bought out. He sold his company.
And did you expect it?
No, nobody did. And I mean, there was a lot of the girls and the staff at the office there that were in tears. I found out the same day. I found out, 10 minutes before the staff were told that it was not going to go on anymore. By the way, in the interim period, he'd made me a director as well. After 2 years with the company as general manager, he promoted me to a director of the company as well. So, like him, I became one of the bad boys as far as the staff were concerned. I could see Julian's way forward. I could see he wanted an exit route. He'd done his thing. He wanted an exit route. Why not? Why not? But it was a really sad day when that company closed down. And what happened was there was a company called Porter Chadburn, which won't mean a lot to many people because it wasn't a fishing tackle brand. It's a public quoted company. Had moved in, wanted to get into the leisure industry. Fishing was one of the targets. And they actually purchased the East Anglian Rod Company, Steadfast Products.
I remember Steadfast, yeah.
Used to sponsor England,
Yeah.
as you know. Steadfast, Taylor and Johnson, which was a large general wholesaler in Redditch. Leader, which was the Mitchell Reel Element.
Yeah.
And Pegley Davis. Those were 5 major companies in the industry. Every one of them was put together to form this new company. The only one that didn't survive was Pegley Davis. Why they really bought Pegley Davis, I don't know. Maybe just to get that company out of the way or something. I don't know. But all the others were put together and the Leader Group was formed, which of course you'll know.
So that's where Leader came from.
Yes,
That company coming in, buying these 5 and going, we are now Leader.
correct. And
Right.
I went with the package. I was very lucky because everybody, as they normally do in these sort of operations, lost the jobs. I was part of the package and I went down to Redditch. So I'm returning closer to my home roots now.
Yeah. So you moved again.
I moved again down to Redditch.
And how many years were you at East Anglian Rod Company for?
I think it was 6 or 7 years.
So then you're moving back.
Then I'm moving back. And I was with the Leader Group for 2 years. Hated every minute of it.
Why?
Every minute of it. Because new brooms sweep clean and all this, you know. Now, I could say I was experienced in the tackle trade. I was moving to a new set of staff that had been handpicked by a new sales director whose background was the cosmetic industry. Yes, okay. Not really a match there with fishing tackle, is there?
No.
And everybody else around him, he'd pick people with sales experience, I grant him that, but you've got to know what the fishing tackle trade is all about. You have to understand what your product's about, and these guys didn't. And most of the salesmen at the time had no fishing tackle sales
Got you.
experience. So one can say, and I saw it with my own eyes, that there was a barrier up straight away. As we went out to do trade shows and spread the word about Leader, the retailers were going, well, what do you know? What do you know about it? And retailers can be very pointed, very, not nasty, but hang on, you don't know anything about this trade. How can you sell me anything. You don't know what you're selling. You don't know about your products.
And I suppose at the time, the retailers held an awful lot of power.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
They held all the power.
Oh, yeah.
You only had them to sell through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was our business. It was that. You know, there was no direct selling operations or anything like that. No Facebook or anything in those days. Your fishing tackle went through the bona fide retailers, and good luck to them.
Yeah.
You know, and they were king, you know. And we hadn't got the reps to do that, you know, and the experience wasn't there. So at first it was quite difficult. And you saw the amalgamated turnover between those 5 companies, which should have probably reached, in them days, maybe 20 million. You saw it drop overnight to about 12 or 13 million.
That's a lot.
Well, they weren't dealing with Taylor and Johnson. If they were dealing with Taylor and Johnson, they wouldn't be dealing with East Anglian and vice versa. Right? So it reduced the supply chain. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
So what you're saying is your reps are going into the shops saying, do you want to buy some stuff from this company and this company and this company and this company?
Yeah.
And the shops are going, well, I'm not spending all that with you. Whereas before,
They
it
would
was
have gone to
a
that.
rep
Yeah.
going from this company and getting the spend. A different rep going from that company and getting the spend.
Correct. They used to spread the spread of
Got ya.
sales around.
Yeah.
Now they're going to say, oh, they want one set of pole floats. I don't want 5.
Yeah, and they feel like they're buying off one
Yes.
rather than 5 separates.
That's right.
Very interesting. And this is 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
Oh, don't please. Yeah.
75.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
You
many-
stop rubbing it in.
How many years ago is it though, Phil? Seriously, because what you're telling me now, I'm sat here listening as someone in the trade and industry thinking, all this theory and business applies to what we do now.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. Well, look, it all started for me in a roundabout way in the 70s. That's when I started. But prior to that, I was also selling a bit of bloodworm, I might tell you.
Right. You're a bit of a wheeler dealer, are
a
you?
bit weird full stop, aren't they? You know.
And did that play a part? Was it something that you did to earn?
Well, whilst I was doing the clothing, you know, I was fishing for a team called North Staff Say 8, and we actually won the Division 3 National on the Oxford Canal, Coventry Oxford Canal.
Right.
And we won that national and could have had a man. That was teams of 12 in them days, and your nationals were 1,000 peggers. I mean, you get out the car and you arse, you'd be going like that. You know what I mean? It was like, oh.
Massive match.
You know, your heart was pounding. You think, this is proper. This is proper. And I might say, I've seen a lot of teams going practicing that thought they got it right, and then they'd be hanging out the bedroom windows in the same hotel that you're in, absolutely bladdered, because it was the night before the national, and they'd all get bladdered, and then they'd blow any chances of winning anything. Seen a lot of that, but we didn't. We took it very, very seriously. We put a lot of practice in, and we won that national on Bloodworm and Joker. I got 3 points out of a possible 100.
Fantastic.
So I missed out on a medal, but did really well. Remember getting off the bus that day when we'd done our business, and the first one, his name was Pip Smith. And as my buses pulled up, because you all went to your sections in buses, right? I got off the bus, and Pip's come up to me. He says, how have you done? How have you done? I said, I think I'm third in my section, which was. And he's gone, we've won this. We've won this. I said, hang on, how many's back? He says, well, me and you. I said, well, how can you say we've won this? He says, I know, we've won it. And as the buses came back, it was just good result after good result after good result. And do you know, we could have won that national that year and not had 11 men weighing and 1 not weighing.
So someone could have come stone
Somebody could have
last.
blanked and we'd have still won the national.
You must have had it tapped. What were the crack?
It was a record point score as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, what were the crack tactically? What did you do?
Canal fished. I mean, you've done. You still know the score, and it's not changed much. I mean, pretty well the same. I mean, we just went down there and we balled Joker down the edges, balled Joker across. It was early days of pole fishing. We'd all got poles you could get across the canal, and a lot hadn't. And we just fished worm up baits and just knocked off, gorging a little roach all day long. I think I had about £3.12, but it was mega. £3.12 was like, you'd have come back on that national with less than £1 a man, you'd have got promoted.
Yeah.
We were all coming back with £3 plus.
Yeah.
You know, so we absolutely annihilated it. And then we progressed through to Division 2. The Falklands War was on, if I remember correctly. And the team slowly but surely dissolved, as it sometimes does, gone.
Right, that's a shame.
But, yeah, the question was about bloodworm, wasn't it? And, magic. If you, in them days, had not got good bait, you could not win anything.
And you used to go get it yourself?
You used to scrape it all myself. I used to just go out and scrape it for myself, but then people got to know how my bait was good, and they were asking me, how did you get your bloodworm? I scrape it myself. Can you supply it? I ended up supplying teams.
Right. What, a lot of bait?
Yeah, quite a lot of bait.
And where did you get it, or how did you get it?
Well, if you'd got a private pool in your back garden and it had got bloodworm in it, I'd have been in it.
And I wouldn't
100% I'd have been in your pool. Right? And nobody would have known. Do you know, there was a couple of real shiner pools, you know, top secret pools.
Right.
One of them...
What were the key? What made a good pool?
Well, you wanted no weed. You just wanted pure silt, right? A lot of these pools that have fish in, you know, they weren't polluted. People seem to think you only get bloodworm in places like that if it's polluted. That's a load of nonsense.
Right.
Load of nonsense. You needed like a very rich, smoothly silt bottom, and that's it. And very few trees around it as well. You didn't want to be scraping in black leaf mould tree deposits and stuff like that, or twigs and things. You wanted to go in, and it's just like pure silt.
Right, okay.
Like melted chocolate.
Right.
Right? Well, I used to go in. Now, this pool, this one I'm about to say, belonged to the High Sheriff. I'm not even going to say what county it was, because there's only so many High Sheriffs, so that remains totally like, I'm not telling you. Right. But it was High Sheriff.
And which county was it?
I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you. You won't catch me on that one. It could still be alive, you know.
Could be coming after you after this story.
Anyway, I used to have a lad that went with me, and I used to post him. I'm not mentioning his name either in case he gets questioned.
Who were that then, Phil?
I'm not telling you. And he'd sit by like the conservatory window, and he could see the High Sheriff and his missus and the spaniels and all that. He got spaniels, I do know that. And they'd be watching the telly or whatever they may have been doing. You know, we won't go into that either. And he used to just like, and I could see him getting up in the conservatory and just like glancing around looking for his pipe or whatever he was doing, like. And then he'd go, and I'd start scraping again. I had the tiniest little headlight you've ever seen, right?
So you doing it at night?
Yeah, oh yeah. We're doing it at midnight, you know. He couldn't have done it he'd seen you, right? And I used to go through with my blade. Now, I had a wetsuit on, my headlight on, sort of a balaclava almost on, right?
You must look like a Navy SEAL or something.
Yeah, I'd have 2 floating trays either side of me, right? And you had to keep walking. If you didn't stop if you stopped walking, you'd go under. You were scraping and walking at the same time. Otherwise, you would have gone under. I don't know how deep it would have been, but it could have been nasty. And I'd be scraping away, and you'd all by feel, you'd go thud. You think, few on that. Thud. Few on that. Then every now and again, you'd look around. Let's have a look at my blade. Ooh.
Loads on it.
Yeah, absolutely solid on the blade. Do that for about hour and a half. Out you come. And then we used to walk down to the lay-by on a certain dual carriage. I won't tell you the name of the road either, right? And you'd sit by the car, then you put your proper headlights on it. You'd go, get in. It'd sort of rise like serpents out the tray, you know. Now I used to take it home, by which time now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've got a team to supply in the morning. I used to have to then paper it all. A little bit of peat, just to separate them up. Well, not a good thing for you. Don't need that really, but I used to do that just to separate them up a bit. And it's all gone through the riddle, so it was clean enough for me to paper them up into measures. So I'd have like 30 measures all over the kitchen, and then you go, what's that? You used to pull up with the bloodworm. We used to call them sugar monsters.
Right.
You know what one of them is?
No.
Oh, you've not lived, have you?
No.
Right. A sugar monster. It's dragonfly larvae.
Right.
and they bite.
Oh, no.
They're like little scorpions to look at. They're absolutely horrible. And I must have had 500, and they were climbing up the walls, they were on the ceiling, they were everywhere. Everywhere.
In your kitchen?
In my kitchen. So, I got divorced for that.
What, just for scraping bloodworm and getting sugar
My
monsters?
first wife divorced me over that.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it wasn't just that I had these sugar monsters everywhere, but I used to look after the team's bait and everything, and I had a number of disasters with pinkies. You know what pinkies are like when just an arse is sticking up out the fibre pile. You can't even get the vacuum cleaner to get them out.
No.
I've had maggots walking up the house outside where I've left them outside and it's rained in the night.
So anyway. Fishing and bait and everything was priority at home?
Yes.
Got
but
you.
I did really well with that bloodworm. It was good pocket money and everything else, you know. And there was another pool. I'm not going to tell you where it was.
You thought about it?
I nearly told you. Right?
Is it still there?
Yeah.
I could go in.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, they might have cleaned it up now, but I don't know. But it was a trout fishery. Strictly private, you know, syndicate.
So you shouldn't have been there either?
No. No. I used to get into that. Used to be 3 or 4 of us do that. Same thing, you know, doing it at night like. And made me laugh that because we did get caught. We did get caught.
By who?
It was like Raiders of the Lost Ark, all these Land Rovers coming down the field and all these lights were everywhere. And you go, wow. And, you know, and they were pretty, like, nasty to start with. And then we give them this excuse for, look, we're getting a special worm, but you can only get it at night and it's for tropical fish.
Ah.
And they let us off.
And who was it, police? Or the landowners?
The farmer and landowners, yeah.
Right.
Anyway, they let us off. Have a look at it. We've got another pool down there. You might want to nip in there, which we did. We did. That was right in the farmyard, but it was not right. You know, manure, water, and bits of straw in it. It was no good. But this particular water was probably the best I ever scraped.
And did they keep letting you go in it after that, or not?
No. They said, you can't do it. It's set, mate. He says fly only. Well, the bit of time we'd had with the scraping that day, I said, can we take this? He said, yeah, you can take that off. You go like. We said, well, we'll go like. We parked in lay-by down there. So off we went down to the lay-by and I put the lights on it again. I said, hey, fly only, look at this. And there was hundreds of red maggots still crawling. So somebody was going up there fishing red maggot.
Never.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so there's me a bloodworm there. And I used to take my really, really good bait to matches. And it makes such a difference.
For yourself and then provide some to some teams.
Yeah, I used to do some brooks with a net as well, just getting some joker out as well. But
flipping heck, Phil. I never knew you did all that.
Oh, yeah.
I honestly didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take a lot of joker with me wherever I went because I got waters where you get great big hookers and fantastic, what I call feed worm, which was much smaller than a hooker, but much bigger than a joker.
And you used to feed that?
Used to feed that.
So you could get like half a kilo of tiny bloodworm almost, and that were better than joker?
Yeah, 100%.
God, I wish you could get that nowadays. I bet it'd be awesome.
You can't. You know, I think it's dried up everywhere. When I told you I lived in East Anglia, you couldn't get bloodworm anywhere down there. I tried getting it, couldn't get it. Couldn't find it. I fell in a few dirty places doing it, let me tell you as
really?
Well. Oh, no.
And when did you stop doing that, Phil? When did that become
well, one side sort of left East Anglia and moved to... I was doing a little bit, you know, late on then whilst I was at Leader, but just for what I wanted. I mean, my proper scraping really finished when I went to East Anglia. Yeah, you know, that was more important to me.
Yeah, work.
Yeah, work was more important to me. And the style of fishing down there was different. You know, so I've done it, I've worn the T-shirt, I didn't have to do that anymore. But it was good fun when I was doing it, you know.
Tell you what I need to ask you, it strikes me like when I hear you talk about fishing like you just have and the bait and the seriousness of it, but then I hear you talk about work and business, you took that really seriously and you wanted to learn and you travelled to... Like, when did business take over from your fishing as such? Was that at that point as well, or did you manage to keep doing both?
Look, I love the fishing. I mean, and I was... it was suffering because I couldn't prepare my tackle the same then, because I got so much work pressures on. I'd turn up to a match and you turn up to a match, for argument's sake, sit next to me, lift the lid of your box, pull your rig out, clip it up when you were walking around talking to people. You're ready to go. That's tying a rig. That was the difference. You know, my focus was more on the business. As much as I wanted to fish, my preparation suffered.
Got you. So did you do less fishing because of that?
No, every weekend I still fished.
Right.
I wasn't getting the opportunity to go midweek like I used to do in the old days, unless of course I was away, on business. And they said sometimes they'd say to me, "Fancy an afternoon's fishing, Phil?" Yeah, because most of the people I was seeing were the same as me. You know, your Trabucos, your Milos, and everything. They're anglers the same as you and I are. And they love to do it. As much as their business is important to them, you know, if they took the foot off the pedal and didn't understand the gear, there goes their success. Because a good man in business, you know, has to know his product. He has to know it. Not, well, I've got people that are doing that for me now. Fair play if you've got good people that can. But the Führer, if you like, needs to look in and say, I understand that, and maybe say, I think you're making a mistake. Or be told by the younger generation, no, we're not, because, and as long as you've got a good answer back, fair play.
Yeah.
But you need to know in the fishing tackle trade, you cannot run a fishing tackle business unless you understand the product.
Which is exactly...
Can you, Matt?
No, you can't. And it's exactly what you were saying about Leader and the team of people they had being completely non-angling based people when you were there.
Yeah.
And what happened after that, Phil? We got to Leader, we got to you not enjoying it, and...
Well, I wasn't enjoying it. I was hating it. It was a very depressive time for me because they just wouldn't listen. Right. So I turned round in the end and gone, right, I'm leaving. I left the company and I snuck out to the European Fishing Tackle Exhibition, which was going on in Holland at the time.
That's FTEX,
yes, FTEX.
The FTEX show,
show. When I say I snuck out because when I left, I had to effectively not work in the industry for 6 months. I was on garden leave, right? But it was my choice. So I was on garden leave, snuck out there, and just had a look around. And I was making my contacts back and saying, look, between you and I, I'm going to be around, I'm going to start a company up, and I'm just getting my ammunition together. And I'm walking around at the exhibition centre, and the Pirazzinis, who were Luca Pirazzini and Massimo Pirazzini, I seem to remember it was Luca Pirazzini and Paolo Pirazzini, actually. And while I was at Leader, and prior to that at the East Anglian Rod Company, I was selling their product. We had just one page of 2 or 3 poles. So we weren't big business to them. They weren't big business to us, but we were representing some of their products in the catalogue. And they said, what's happened at Leader? And I said, I've just had enough. But I was in charge, total charge of that page. Right, total charge of that page. And Leader didn't want to expand it any further, so it was never going to go anywhere. But they did sell quite a number of these poles that were on that page. And they said, well, if you're leaving Leader, we look for another distributor. I said, no, don't cut your nose off. I said, they'll still do a job for you, I'm sure, but I'm leaving. You know, I've left. No. Why don't we do some business together? And I looked at it and I thought, well, that's why I'm out here. I'm looking to start a new business. And I said, well, okay. I said, we'll do a 50-50, myself and Paolo Pirazzini at the time. Yeah. Good. It's good, he said. And I said, well, okay, I tell you what, we'll call it Maver UK, which on reflection was probably a mistake.
Right.
Because I wanted to start my own business. And this tie was going to be a 50-50. No winners with a 50-50.
What do you mean by 50-50, Phil?
I mean 50% He had 50%, I had.
So whatever money you make, you give him half.
Well, it doesn't quite work like that, but every decision has to be joint decision. So if I didn't want to do something and he did, you couldn't go through. You know, a 50-50 is a horrible... You need a majority shareholder, you know, and I wanted to be the majority shareholder, but I was a 50-50.
Okay.
And we started this business. I found a little premises in Redditch, and we got absolutely zilch. And there's a couple of people I knew who give us a bit of a leg up, if you like, only a physical leg up, because what I'm about to say was, we got this unit and it was just an empty shell, no shelving, no nothing. So bit by bit, I went round bankrupt stock, buying shelving. Bit by bit, every single shelf I screwed together.
Wow.
And I kid you not, I should have looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I still don't look like him, but I should have done. I should have been rippling in muscle, because the stuff we put up and stuff we lifted, 2 lads give me a hand, you know. Couldn't pay them anything because it was just a brand new thing. So we got the shelving together. There's no office. Built a little porter cabin inside a warehouse. Nearly died on a few occasions with like smoke inhalants and everything. I think I got an old log burner or something to keep it warm, you know. It was very, very primitive. But we started, and I've looked at I've got shelving, I've got a little office.
And this is just a shell at this point.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing in it yet.
Yeah, nothing in it at this point.
Did you? I've got to ask. Did you have loads of money, Phil? Did
No.
you have a big backing? Because you're making this decision to.
No.
You've travelled abroad, met a guy at a show. Yeah, you've got a little link from before, but then you're going, right, we're going to make a business.
Yeah.
50-50 business
No,
with you.
No, I've just got experience in the fishing tackle trade. Obviously, I put a business plan together.
Yeah.
I went to see Lloyd's Bank. I said, there's my business plan. And he said to me, well, how much you want? I said, well, I do about 50 grand, really, which isn't a lot in this day and age, but it was a lot of money then. And he's just gone, fine, you've got collateral, you've got your house, blah, 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 blah. Sign here. So I got me 50k. So part of that 50k I put straight into the, I'm not calling it a partnership because it wasn't. It was we formulated a limited company, which is very different. So we started the limited company. I had to wait and wait and wait and wait for Paolo Pizzini to put his money in. I thought it's never going to happen. This is bad. Eventually he did, but he did it by way of stock.
Okay.
So I put some finance into it, and he put his element in by way of stock.
Product. Okay.
And I thought, look at this. They sent me 2 of each pole. I think there was a range of 5 at the time. 2 of each pole. And about 1 million spools of monofilament. 1 million. I mean, literally. Oh, I said, how the hell? I've just set this company up, and I'm going to be losing money from day one. Right? But I got bits and pieces coming in, and then Luca Pizzini, who was the president of Red Glass, brother of Paolo Pizzini, says, well, you know, you're going to stock our poles now. You must have some sections, because there are poles out there. People will be complaining if they can't get a section leaders out the picture. So I said, yeah, send me what sections you can. And he sent me a lot of sections. And he said, anybody gets a break, you give them this section.
Free of charge.
Free of charge.
Okay.
And I went, I'm not. Anybody breaks a pole section and I deem it not to be a manufacturing fault, shop's going to have to pay for it, for that guy to pay. And I got through the next 6 months, made a profit just on pole sections, because the stock was so slow coming in. Unbelievable.
And did you do that a little bit on the side, or?
No, it was all legit. I was doing, you know, my cash flow projections and my accounts.
Yeah.
Under an accountant, and, you know, after 6 months, he said, you've done really well. When we started the company, I think it was 6 months to the year end as such. And he's turned around, he said, I can't believe it. He said, you've actually made a profit.
But
quite a nice little
It's
profit.
actually a bit shocking, that, isn't it? Because you made the whole thing sound remarkably easy, but I can imagine it probably wasn't a lot of the time.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, whilst I'm sort of getting the business going, I was referred to a small business advisor. They used to have, you could go to these, I got a little grant off them if I remember correctly. It's about 1,500 quid or something. But you had to sit in front of this guy and he'd say, well, what are you doing and how are you doing it? And you'd show him, I always paper format it and said, well, read that. And he'd like, I said, what, don't you agree with that? He said, no. He said, you should be sat where I am, he said. He said, you don't need to be told anything. I said, no, I do. He said, no. He said, keep doing what you're doing. And that little advisor entered our company into a awards ceremony.
Wow.
And we actually won
Yeah.
Small Business of the Year after 1 year.
That's a pretty lie.
Televised.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Televised.
Is it?
Yeah, by ITV.
Unreal.
Wow.
So, yeah, in the first year, we actually won Small Business of the Year.
And getting to the point, was this Maver?
Yes.
This was Maver UK.
This was Maver UK.
This business that you've created with the Italian brothers.
I mean, look, they were supplying me with some good poles, I have to say. Although they had their problems, as Maver poles did, with joint wear and one thing and another in those days. But they were superb poles otherwise. And I started to go to other suppliers as well, which was never part of the original agreement or understanding. But I had a business to run. And if they couldn't supply me with certain items which the market wanted, I went out and got it, branded it, went through into my...
You still branded it as Maver.
Oh, yeah.
And did they eventually start to appreciate you doing that?
When they saw the profits, yeah. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? But at the end of the day, it grew very, very quickly, Matt. I mean, we went from 0 to about 5 million in 4 years.
That was
I
mental.
mean, we were probably the largest brand in Europe.
How did you get there? What were the key, from that point of having an empty warehouse, selling a few sections to get into a £4-5 million company?
Hard work, but look, I had to get. Soon as I went into business with Maver UK, the very first thing I did, was arrange trade shows all over the country, right? Because nobody takes, it's a new company, he'll not survive. I mean, it was bad enough when I started Maver. We were in recession, and everybody's saying he's mad.
What year was it, Phil?
1992.
I were one.
You still won.
I have. I were one.
I was minus 4.
You're -4. I'm 1, and
dear.
you're starting Maver in the UK.
That's incredible.
1992. Yeah. I mean, my first catalogue was the biggest disaster you've ever seen. I tell you who did it for me. What's his name?
Simon Roth.
Well, Simon was involved in some of the advertising, in fairness. He was a
Right.
Barnsley Blacks guy.
Yeah. A lot of people mention Roffy.
Yeah.
Still see him now and again.
Yeah. I can't remember who helped me out now with the first catalogue, but it was very comic-y and full of spelling mistakes. But, when you start out, you go, well, at least we've got something that somebody can look at.
Who did you have, Phil, in this time period of this weird, massive growth? Like, did you have staff? Did you get staff? How did you get the staff?
You expand with your staff as you develop. I mean, when I first started, it was me. I had one warehouse person and one salesperson. Right? And then you start to build. If you too many staff, it's an overhead. It's a big overhead for you. So you're sensible. Bring your staff in as you need them and try and get the most experienced people you get. I mean, when it came to the reps, I remember sitting in an empty warehouse when I first started. I thought, I've got to get reps in. And I put an advert in, Angling Times or whatever, and I got a stream of people coming to see me. The first person that came through my door, who was it? The first rep I took on, who was it?
Will I know him?
Yeah. Talks like you.
Andy Kinder?
Yes!
Never?
Yes!
Well, I
Hey,
didn't know if
how did you know that?
I didn't know if it were going to be an obvious one or not,
yeah.
but I always know Andy,
Yeah,
Maver, yourself.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Andy Kinder. And I've had this knock on the door, and I've gone to the door, opened it up, and it's Kinder. I says, who are you? And he's gone, Andy Kinder. I said, well, come in. Anyway, we sat down. I hadn't even got a chair, I don't think I could sit him on. Anyway, I'd got a seat box. I put the seat box down. I had to sit on that. And he's gone, I said, who do you work for? He's gone, I think it was Leon Grant. Long gone Leon Grant.
The clothing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never any good in the first place. Leon Grant. And I think he got some floats off somebody. He got two agencies anyway. So I said, is that it? He said, yeah. I said, so you're earning nothing then? Well, pretty well. He's going. I said, right. I said, do you fish then, Andy, yourself? And he's gone, And I said, well, what do you do? Competition fishing? Not yes, And I said, well, do you team fish then? He's gone, And I said, well, who'd you fish for? He said, Barnsley. I said, Barnsley Blacks? He said, I thought, oh, you cheeky little bugger, you've had me over here. I says, right, okay, Andy, I'm just going to get a pole out the warehouse and I want you to sell me this pole. Right? Off I've gone, comes back with this.
This is you and him sat in a warehouse.
Yeah,
I've got this vision in my head. You just sat in this like pretty empty big space, like little Kinder, you just sussing him out.
Yeah, I was sussing him out all right. Put it all together. He sat there on the box and I laid it on the floor. I says, right, pick that up and sell me that. He's picked it up and he's gone. And he was like, you know that bird that drinks out of the water like this, and they lean back like that. He was like, because I mean, he's mind you today, and he's got 13 metres up like this. He's doing this with his head. I says, what do you think? And he's gone, that is the best ball I've ever held. I said, you'll do for me. When can you start? And he got his job.
Honestly?
He got his job. Yeah, he got his job. And slowly but surely I brought in people like Paul Hughes. Paul was a great angler. I think he got a cap for England, hasn't he, Paul?
Yeah, I'm sure he has. Yeah.
Paul Hughes, great canal angler, great person. I haven't seen him for ages. Hope he's all right.
He's all right. I see Paul a little bit.
Well, you tell him I'm thinking of him.
I'm pretty sure he'll listen to this.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he will.
Yeah.
It'd be quite a good one to
well,
get on the
he'll know
podcast.
what I'm saying was correct.
Yeah,
'cause he was part of it, you know.
Yeah.
He was one of the first in. There was a guy called Clive Weldon who did the Midlands. Who were the first ones? Those three come to mind straight away, but I've had some come and go anyway, but I got the right guy. Steve Mayo came in, great angler. Paul Boothby. Paul Boo, great. He was probably the best salesman I had.
I love Boo.
But there was a few little shady deals he did, let me tell you that much, which were unbeknown to me. It was too late to undo them, you know what I mean?
Right.
But great guy. And to have this sort of experience, and I used to go, right, these are your targets. We used to have sales meeting once a month. Serious, very serious. Used to last all day long, and then it was like, job done, one of the lads again. But the lads would tell you I was pretty hard on them. Hard on them. But they knew at the end of the day, I was doing it for them, I was doing it for the welfare of the company, I was doing it for the welfare of everything we were about. And they were great guys. And that's your leg up sort of thing, because we were talking about staff. You had to have a good sales force on the road. You had to have good salespeople that you know what they were talking about, followed by an experienced buyer, a proper experienced warehouse guy. And Darryl, that used to run the warehouse for me, was tremendous in terms of his ability to produce the figures I wanted to see. In fact, I used to say, that's impossible. You know, the amount of turnover we've done, you must have more of a stock deficit than you show me. He said, no, that's what it actually is. And the auditors would have checked that. So he did a good job. In other words, things weren't going out where they shouldn't have been going out. He was in full control of it.
Where did it get to at its best for you, Phil? Where did Maver get to
Do you mean in terms of turnover or what?
Well, in terms of definitely turnover, I'd love to know that. But also in terms of you enjoying it the most, or where you saw it in its very best light.
Well, I'll start with saying that in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s were the best times of the fishing tackle trade ever. You know, although there was discounts being given out, nobody can stop themselves from doing discounts. It's illegal to say to somebody you can't sell at that price. You know, I got my knuckles rapped by the Office of Fair Trading for sending letters out and saying, I'm going to close your account if you don't stop giving that discount
Honestly?
away. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it upset me. And then I thought at the end of the day, well, I proved the point. And my retailers know I'm on their side. I'm trying to stop unnecessary discounts. Because, you know, if a retailer was giving away a huge discount, I used to get a flood of telephone calls from the shops that were fully behind me saying, you might as well have your gear back. He's selling it. Well, I can't even buy it for that. So...
And it happens now, Phil, loads
yeah,
now.
and I think the manufacturer or distributor has some right somewhere, surely, to say, well, it's a sad world when the manufacturer or distributor is dictated to as to what he can and can't sell his product for. That's wrong. That's wrong. And if it was more of a level playing field, you know, which it will never be, unfortunately, because we're in this era now where everybody's discounting the nuts out of it. But that's been the biggest demise for tackle dealers at the end of the day. They're not making any money. And it's very sad. But anyway, we'll move away from that, you know. No, for me, the pinnacle was servicing an industry of beautiful people that love the sport. The retailers were absolutely sound, and we'd have parties at trade shows. You know, everybody was on your side. I don't see that now.
It's very different.
I don't see that
It's very
now.
different. I reckon I just caught the back end of it, but I can remember coming to a few Maver shows. Did you used to do them at Aston Hall?
Yeah.
Up near me?
Yeah.
I can remember coming to a few at Aston Hall.
Yeah.
And you used to have Dennis there.
Oh, Dennis
Yeah,
was... Dennis, I mean, you know, we'd have so many laughs.
Dennis White.
Dennis White, yeah. I mean, Dennis ended up being a really close friend to me, you know that. But, no, I mean, wherever we were... there were stories to be told. I mean, I think we were at not Orset Hall. On Kinder's Territory. I can't remember the name. of
Not Aston Hall.
No, it's on the way. You pass it on the way to Holcroft on the right hand side. I think they changed the name of it now.
What's
You
it
know
called?
where I'm talking about.
Yeah. Kinder's going to ring me when he has listened to this and tell me exactly which one it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll come to me probably during the course of this interview, but we were at that particular hotel. And we got up next morning and the cars had been broken into.
Right.
And do you know what they pinched?
Go on.
Steve Jackson's toothbrush. But they were company cars. That's what bothered me. All the cars had all been broken into, and he pinched his used toothbrush.
Oh my God.
Well, no, I'll never forget. People would come to us, and we used to put Dennis on sentry patrol of the fishing rods. Right. Now, he had a big part to play in the rods because although he didn't design them, he was critical. He'd say, now then, father, that needs some more backbone in it, and this, that, and the other. So he was very aware of what the rods could and couldn't do. And we say, right, Dennis, every retailer that comes to us, they come round, they start with you on the rods.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember being there with
Yeah.
the local tackle shop.
Yeah. And Dennis used to pick a rod up, he said, now then, father, just get hold of that. And the retailer would hold the corked handle, and Dennis said, get hold of the tip. He said, go on, get it out of the pull. He says, yeah. Well, that's a gudgeon, father. Give it a pull. Now then, that's a roach. Now, that's a barbel, father. Look at that. And they'd go, oh, hell, they're good like. And there'd be one of my reps stood there, and he'd say, I'll have 5 of them. I'll have 2 of them. I'll have 10 of them. And he was just writing down. Dennis was doing all the talk, you know. And he was an entertainer to listen to, I've got to say. And then we'd get some carp anglers come in, right? Or carp shops come in. And we'd show them our fairly limited range of carp stuff. And I say, Dennis, I said, I've got such and such person here. I said, wants to look at the carp rods in a minute. And he scampered across. He says, carp rods? Carp rods? He says, That doesn't go carp fishing, does there? And he goes, well, yeah. He says, "Yeah. I'll tell you this, Father. You're deaf, dumb, blind and mentally handicapped," and he walks away. Dennis, there was only one Dennis, let me tell you.
He's great, isn't he?
They loved him.
Yeah, I remember him being there. Doing exactly what you said to us when we walked in.
Yeah.
What a great system.
Yeah.
And I think when you're telling me these stories, so much comes back. Like, I remember Maver as a young angler. They were a massive company, key player, but they did some stuff that was really influential. Like, I remember watching the videos with Father Dennis.
Yes.
At Larford.
Yes.
You were presenting them.
Yeah.
Jamie Mason were fishing on Match Lake, shallow, and Dennis was over the back on Specimen Lake, balling it in. He was secret and super match ground bait.
That's about right.
And balled it in. And you were just catching carp like that. And then Jamie were fishing pellets shallow.
That's right.
And you were like interviewing them. And,
yeah.
But I can't. Were it called the Commercial Guide to Pole Fish?
Commercial Sense.
Commercial Sense. That were it.
Commercial Sense. And we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And we used to give, didn't sell them, we used to give thousands and thousands away. We used to put them in the retailers. If the retailer ordered 20 quid's worth of non-carriage page stock, he'd get 100 DVDs would go in, regardless, because it was advertising for us, and retailers don't have a problem giving them away. If you put a price tag on them, it probably would have probably stood there. But they were very, very entertaining films. I mean, I love doing them, really love doing them, and we used to involve all the lads that actually fished, properly fished. I mean, Kindy used to be on them, and Boothby. Jamie Masson was a great angler in them days. Jamie Masson.
Jamie were awesome.
He was really good.
Not seen him for a while, Jamie. I don't know what he's up to, or I don't know, but he was amazing at fishing. Amazing.
Certainly would. Could have been a world champion, I think, if he'd kept going. But
Definite.
There you go.
Fished for Scotland a few times, didn't he?
He did. But yeah, those DVDs were great fun. I was pretty hard with them on that as well. Don't keep repeating yourself. Stop doing this with your hands and Christ knows what. Andy Kinder was terrible at doing this. Terrible at Andy, stop doing that. Would you sit on your hands or something? You
were a director as well.
Yeah, well, of course.
But single-handedly, did you make all that happen, Phil? I mean, what was marketing then? We've got 5, 6, 8 people in our marketing department full time. Like, did you have that kind of thing, or was it different then?
I did in the end, but I mean, the first sort of 5 or 6 years, the marketing was mine. It was totally mine. I didn't have, a marketing person that could put an advert in front of me and say, "What do you think?" I used to sit there and I'd say, "Right, we've got to do something with the Jurassic carp pole." Do you remember that one?
Incredible piece of kit. Yeah.
Well, let's use that as an example. So, Jurassic, what do I do? Do I put a load of dinosaurs on it or what? And I thought, no, what we've got to do is show research. It's a new material. It's got wind core in it. Which is like a polythene wrapped within the carbon, and I put something together and I sent it directly to Angling Times, who had got a department that could put an advert together. It come back going, "No, I don't like that. Alter it, scribble on it, fax it back to them." In the days you got faxes. Yeah, faxes. Yeah. You wouldn't even know how fax worked,
Never
would you?
heard of
No.
it.
Anyway, back it did go, and then it come back again. I'd go, "That's it." So, for me, to get a very impactful advert, you almost have to be an artist. Would you agree with me on that?
Creative.
You've got to have a very vivid, active imagination and almost be an artist, And I'll say this myself, my advertising was very impactful. It was. And I used to do lots of it. Because I had this saying, if you like, that whilst we were growing that company, we were in very difficult times in terms of the market, in terms of job losses and everything. It was a bad time. It was a recession. And I used to say, whilst times are difficult, you keep them balls in the air. You don't let them hit the floor. And that's what made us successful. When things were tough for people, in the trade as well, they would come to me and say, "Phil, Have you any idea? Have you got any idea just how well you're doing out there?
Externals, as in
Yeah.
other companies.
Yeah. And I used to say, look, we're not doing anything different to anybody else other than keeping the products in people's faces, the name in people's faces, by increasing the advertising budget, not cutting it back. Because most of them, that's the first thing, times I'll cut the budgets back, cut their advertising budget back. That's a big mistake.
And what sort of campaign, like as someone who's really interested in marketing and does it myself, what sort of things did your marketing campaigns involve? What sticks out in your mind as things that were effective at the time? Because I'm assuming that then, back in the 1800s, it was... I'm only kidding.
You be careful.
I'm assuming that then it were very different to like how Tobe works in marketing with me now, and you're talking about all this time and effort spent on an on-page bit of advertising. We don't do any on-page advertising now.
That's how times changed.
What were your campaigns, Phil? What bits of marketing did you do that stand out as being successful?
Everything, particularly poles and fishing rods, you had to put impactful ads together. There's only so much you can say, and only so much you can promote that by way of words. If it's too much, they flick the page. That's how it used to work. Same as on your phone. If it's too much, they just flick it off. They read the first 10 seconds, don't they? So your pictures of the product had to be very impactful. And I mean, one comes to mind, just how daft one can be. We do you remember a poll we did called the Fight Back?
Can't remember that one.
Well,
maybe that were before I was super serious, or I don't know.
Yeah, we sold a lot of it.
Fight Back. And what it was basically was a hybrid between a match pole and a carping pole, because carping was developing way back then, but it wasn't what it is now. And I said, how do we do that? And then I thought, I know, I'll have the pole just across the page, pretty boring. Behind it, I'll have two boxers hitting each other. And you know who the two boxers were? I think I can remember this advert.
Well, there you go.
This is incredible. Well, one of them Andy Kinder.
Yeah. Who was the other one?
Were it Boo?
No.
I can't remember. I can remember.
Who was the biggest rep I had? Paul Hughes.
I can remember the advert.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I got Paul Hughes. And
did he not have a top on? Were Paul Hughes topless?
I did this in my boardroom. I did this advert in my boardroom.
Flipping heck, I can remember
the other
Kinder.
Reps, yeah, the other reps were there, and I said, right, I'm going to do an advert. All of you go and have a break, fag or whatever. And I kept Paul there, and I said, get your shirt off, Boo, Paul. And he's gone, oh, get me bloody shirt. I said, get your shirt off. Andy, get your shirt off. Now, Andy's taking his off, and he looks like a nail.
Lanky streak of piss is what you were going to say, definitely.
Thin arms and everything else.
Yeah.
And then there's Husey, overweight, big hairy chest and everything. And I said, right, what I want you to do is get in the fighting position and just take a swing and hit him, clock, not full, sort of slow, so he looks like you're hitting him. And I've got Kinder's glove right here. And then we've superimposed a sort of closed eyelid off a good right hook, and then had a splashing effect of sweat coming off. And that was the advert.
Brilliant.
Incredible.
And it made the fight back. That's what it did, that sort of advertising.
But you
look at the Medusa with all the
hair.
with all the bloody snakes
It
off
was a
the...
woman and loads of snakes in the hair.
Exactly,
Remember it?
exactly.
It's years ahead of the game, isn't it?
But this is the thing that I love about this conversation. Your theory and the drive behind the marketing is exactly what we try and apply today. How are we stopping someone? How are we getting their attention first? How are we going, you've got to look at this?
That's what I mean.
Yes.
We were years ahead of what, like, that's we don't operate much different to that, do we now?
The process is the same now.
Yeah.
Like
well, we were always full of, I was certainly always full of, I have to get the message across. And every poll that we did, I mean, I named them some remarkably gory names. I mean, do you remember the Grim Reaper? The Grim Reaper.
I remember the advert, the dark thing with a big crook.
There's a bloody
the
Grim
hook
Reaper
thing.
coming to take you wherever you're going. Yeah, and that was it. Called it the Grim Reaper. And Grim Reaper, oh, it's the Grim Reaper. And everybody, oh, this Grim Reaper, really strong and all this, you know. And I sold 6,000 or 7,000 pieces in a year of the Grim Reaper. I mean, it was just unreal. Every shop, 10 plus 1, 10 plus 1, 10 plus 1.
The names, though, Phil, that you've reeled off, Jurassic Carp.
Great
what
name.
a name for a carp.
Great pole,
Jurassic.
like,
And
Got in trouble for that, you know.
did you really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, Jurassic Carp, I mean, wow, what a name. Jurassic Park was all the film and everything else. So we got these dinosaurs in the background and test tubes with, you know, where they were making the pole and everything.
You did have a scratch mark, I think, on one of them.
And
Claws.
I used the same font as the film. I did. The same font, right? Right.
Why did you get in trouble? I can't
Well,
imagine.
I'll tell you how I got in trouble. I mean, we was voted Pole of the Year, Pole of the Century by the public, right? This was Angling Times thing. Pole of the Century. I mean, there'll never be another pole anywhere at any time will ever beat the sales that pole made. Just a world record, you know. And we're doing this pole, and my advert basically was this guy with a test tube and everything else, and dinosaurs in the back or eggs hatching and things, and the Jurassic pole, you know. And I put the advert out, and we started selling hundreds and hundreds, thousands. Got here one morning, my mail was always put in front of me by my PA. Oh no, listen, I've opened this envelope. That's paper, and I've gone. What the? I've got a letter from Universal Studios. I've got a letter from Universal Studios, right? And the first line is like from their top barrister, whatever. I've infringed. Right. First off, it was like, you've used the font the same as what is on film. Okay. Shit. And then they said, although Jurassic, they couldn't register that because it's a period of time. Right.
Of course, yeah.
They said, when you say Jurassic Carp, it's almost like saying Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Because if you reverse carp, it's almost saying park, isn't it? If you reverse it.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, what a load of nonsense that is.
Yeah.
And I've gone, well, okay. So I wrote back and I said, look, I've checked the font. It's standard library font. You can't do me for that. You can pick it up, standard library font. Check it. You can. And I said, as for the Jurassic part of things, I see where you're coming from, but with due respect, and I didn't mean to offend, but Jurassic is such a good name for us. So they said, finish the stock you've got and just leave the carp off. So I finished the stock that I got after about 5 years. Nothing was ever said. But it was an absolute, it frightened me. It frightened me. I mean, thinking about an hour what I would have made in 10 years, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was all about keeping them balls in the air, keeping the name and pictures of everybody in everybody's faces.
I love
That's
the
an
enthusiasm you
incredible
talk
story.
about.
That's
It's
brilliant.
great, isn't
That's
it?
so good.
We've got to pull that out and just put that on
Yeah, we
social.
absolutely will. I've got this image of somebody in Hollywood or Universal Studios who's like fishing and he's like running to his office and showing all the bosses the advert. He's going, "Do you see what I'm doing?"
Yeah, good times, I tell you. But it was about keeping those balls in the air. It was about, I mean, look what I used to do at shows.
I've got to ask you about it and where it came from. But I remember coming to, I think it was NEC. Was it NEC?
It was.
You know what I'm going to ask you about, don't you?
Yeah, pole dancing.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
I shouldn't have been looking. I was with my dad and my granddad, but I definitely were looking.
There was probably 20,000 kids that were looking. That shouldn't have been looking. But yeah.
Where
look,
did that come from? What was that all about?
All of a sudden, our listeners have turned the podcast right up.
I had this brainwave. I've got to say, it was down to me. It wasn't fully probably received well from all my salesmen at the time. I thought, what's he talking about? I said to him, look, we're all about poles. We've got the best poles in the world. Maver poles, best poles in the world. I said, what I'm going to do is increase the foot space on the stand. And I don't know if you can remember, we had double pole alleys,
Yeah.
right? Because we couldn't cope with the amount of people that were coming on one pole stand. It was a big queue and someone gave up. Didn't even handle them. So we went 2 pole stands. And it worked. I mean, we totally on it. I mean, I used to stand there myself all day long, just bending poles, and people would come to you and they'd want to thrust the pole out to try and prove a point and try and bend the tips over and break them. But it didn't happen, you know. But we had 2 pole stands. But from time to time, anybody that goes to shows like the NEC, you have a rush and then you have your quiet periods. Quiet's no good. I wanted people on the stand all the time. So I said, what I'm going to do, lads, I'm going to build a little stage and I'm going to put a pole up. Because we were about poles, so let's have a pole up. What do you mean? I mean a pole dancing pole. And let's put a young lady every sort of 30 minutes doing a 2 minutes, 3 minutes on the pole stand. I said, it'll be a good marking exercise because if it works, I said, you'll have everybody running to that stand because I'm going to make an announcement every half hour. And now it's Danny back on the pole, blah, 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 and see how it goes. So we did just that. We had a legs 11 girl, scantily clad, but decent, you know. And it's an art to watch a lady on a doing a proper pole dance.
That's a fantastic art. It's sporting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it should all be like milling around in the background of people, you know, buzzing sort of sound to people talking and everything. Then suddenly it'd be Phil Briscoe was on the mic. Now, in 2 minutes' time, right now, get yourself down to the main stand. Dan is on the pole. And then we'd blast some music out. Now, everybody around us, I remember Pat Byrne from Browning hated it. You know, really selfish. He's got pole dancers all over the place. He hated it. But you just see it was like a tidal wave. Whoosh there, down onto the sand. And I'd be absolutely rammed. and the kids and everything, you know, were all there on the phones because they'd all got the phones starting there. They're all getting told off when they got home. Look, I got here. and yeah, you know, and some would just stand and watch, and some, once they got on the stand, started looking at things, and then they were pounced on by us. And we'd say, like, you want to get on that pole. So, look, it's empty at the minute. They're all watching pole. Get on this and have a look at this pole. And it kept people on the stand, and it was remarkable. And in them days, you know, it wasn't about selling your product on the day. It wasn't about that. You know, the NEC shows started off as a showpiece. You show your stuff, you tell them where they can get it from and let them go to the retailer and let the shop have the sale. That was the objective. And we get in on Monday morning, and the phones were red hot. So clearly it was where we used to sell thousands and thousands of product on the back of them shows. Well, that pole dancer just made that difference. And we did that for 2 or 3 years and it worked.
Everyone still talks about it now.
Yeah, incredible.
It's a great idea.
Well, why not?
And it's I just don't think people in fishing and in our industry have got the balls, if I dare say it, to make them moves. But it's out there, outside the box marketing that works.
Exactly.
I think that's just a clear example of understanding the needs of your target audience, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Middle-aged men.
Exactly.
What's
you have girls doing sort of chair dancing or whatever they call it.
Look what
American
happens
football.
at darts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Boxing,
Ringo.
wrestling.
Formula One.
Exactly. It's full of, because it's a male-dominated audience.
And,
like,
and even at that point, Matt, you know, for me, it was about raising the profile of fishing as well, getting it recognised more as a professional sport. You know, not you go fishing, well, yeah, fair play, but not interested in me. Show what it is, you know, and fishing, and we're doing the competitions now that sort of still go on with that theme in mind about growing the profile.
Yeah,
we've got some big competitions and some big money. In them days, that didn't exist, did it?
no, not at all. Well, obviously, I mean, it's probably a good time to come on to that side of it. Later on at your time in Maver, am I right in thinking, I don't know if I am or not, but you were the founder of the Match This?
Yes.
That was you were there,
Yes.
your idea.
Yes.
And you aimed it to be £100,000 competition.
we would loved it to have been a £100,000 competition, but it was never really going to happen. That it all started. We promoted this. You remember the late David Hall, don't you?
Worked for him.
Of course you did. And I went to see him, and if you recall, he had David Hall television, didn't he? David Hall
TV.
Yeah. And he interviewed me, and he actually interviewed me, on the film. And I said, look, it's about raising a profile. We're going to do this competition, and we're going to pay £100,000 out. We're going to have to build to that. I said, but it'll certainly be 50,000. And we did pay 50,000 on the first year. And there was a big buzz about it. And in them days, you'd got Fish Show and nothing else.
That was the only big money competition.
Maybe Park Dean was going.
Probably.
Yeah,
probably was. Yeah.
Which was about 20k, wasn't it?
It slipped under the radar a bit, Park Dean, though. Fish Show took the limelight, even though they were the same prize pot.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I certainly created it, but it would have been very difficult to get to 100k, especially with peg prices now what they are and the expense generally of running things. It would have been, don't think it'll ever get there. There's only one that did it, Steve Dawk, and that disappeared, didn't it? I didn't get that, but we won't go there.
No.
That's how we got there. And it's about raising the profile, and I ran it for about 3 years before leaving Maver.
And what was your thinking behind developing this biggest prize pot there's ever been in match fishing? Why would that be a good thing? What was the theory behind it?
The theory behind it for me was just to promote the brand further. It was never... Maver was a sponsor of that event, and for me it was all about putting a polished competition together, but in the background, or you could say the foreground, whatever you want to call it, was getting the name Maver across. Maver Match This is what it became, and that's where it still is now.
And it works, because I can tell you from a fishing point of view, Phil, people go, where are you going this weekend? Oh, I'm on the Maver at Partridge.
Yes.
They don't go, I'm on the Match This at Partridge.
Yeah, exactly.
They go, I'm on the Maver at Western Pools.
Yes.
I'm on the Maver at Ayfield.
Yes.
It definitely worked, and is working still now.
Yeah, and I can't speak for them now, but I mean, for it to be referred to as the Maver or the Maver Match This, they should make hay from that. They should benefit from that.
Yeah.
It's about the brand name. Why else would you be doing it?
But I asked you about marketing, and when I listened to your different theories, you had a lot of bases covered. You had the ideas of the on paper side of things to capture people. You had the shows that you're talking about and the quirks of, let's get a pole dancer there. That's I know it's, some people will perceive it as corny or whatever they might say, but it's outside the box thinking that marketeers have and need. And then let's create an event that's got the biggest prize pot in fishing yet. I sitting here, I really respect and appreciate what you've done there. I honestly do. I think it's really cool.
Well, I don't want to sort of blow smoke up my own jacksie as such, call it what you will, but I would like to think that I will go down in people's memories as a person that really did and has tried to promote fishing as a sport alongside other great sports. We still got, if I'm bluntly honest, we've still got a lot of work to do before people will seriously take fishing, seriously. The anglers have to improve. The anglers have to behave better.
This was going to be, sorry to jump in, but it's something I find quite interesting, not being an angler and having interest in other sports and then looking back into fishing. And with the experience and success that you've found throughout your time in the industry, what would you do, or what do you think needs to happen for fishing to get to that next level of, say, I don't know, a darts or a boxing? Do you know what I mean? That next level of sport.
Well, I'd certainly say that, well, I said just anglers have got to behave more professionally on the bank.
What do you mean by that, Phil? How could there be, what do you perceive as good or bad behaviour?
Well, you tell me any sport where really they are loud, unpolite. Anglers, they're constantly having a go at one another. There's never any, he's drawn well, that's why he's done this, he's drawn well, and using words like, I can't swear, can I?
Can, if you want, we can beep it
Well,
if you really want us to.
You don't, in front of the organisers on venue, say it's a shithole.
No.
And you don't turn round and say, you've got no chance winning. He's not stocked it for so long of this. They're there to participate in a fishing match, right? And a lot of the anglers that are saying this are sponsored anglers. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, if I was still at Maver or any other tackle company, and I was sponsoring somebody, and I heard something like that on the car park at my venue, they'd be bringing the kit back. Because the anglers that are out there, I'm not going to name any of them, right? But there's some very high-profile anglers that do not behave appropriately when they're on the bank in front of other anglers. If somebody was to say, for instance, you've won the match, Matt, you've done really well there, how did you catch? I would expect you to say, well, I've done this. And even if you're telling them a few of your trade secrets, you'll still turn around and go, I don't mind telling him that because I know I can do it better. Tell them. But when you get answers like, how have you caught today? You fished really well, and they turn around and they go, better than you. What sort of answer's that?
Yeah.
And I would just like to see all these lads and girls getting together and polishing their acts up alongside other participants in the big sports, because you don't see it. You might have seen McEnroe years ago throwing wobblies, I can't think of anybody else that really throws wobblies, can you?
No, not
if you're
really.
on the football team, if you're on the football pitch, you yellow card, you're all sent off.
Yeah, act more professionally as a whole.
Yes.
Match anglers
Yes.
in general.
Yes.
Take a bit of pride in acting professionally.
Yes, and a bit more friendly, talking to one another more. And that would be a long-term way as well of attracting more youngsters back in, because I honestly feel that if they're around and they see what's going on, they get very intimidated.
It's a really fair point, that, because even in what I do, Matt, if you're, if there's any like poor behaviour or that on the mats in where I compete, you're disqualified.
Yeah.
You know, and you're right. In the more high-profile sports, your footballs and stuff like that, you're sent off.
You're penalised for it.
You're just sent off, mate. You're gone.
Yeah,
you're not on
exactly.
Exactly. And it doesn't happen anywhere else.
It's a
really
real
interesting point.
It's a real difficult one in fishing, isn't it? Because in so many ways you can have so many different kinds of people together. So you're always going to get a mix, and there's always going to be what's perceived as better people, worse people, good attitude, bad attitude. Whereas in high-level sport, in a lot of other sports, you have only high-level people together, so they all know how to act. Whereas a Maver Match This qualifier, which is perceived as a really high-level competition in fishing, anyone off the street can buy a ticket, can go in that event
And win it.
and can win it, sat next to people who are deemed the best at that. That can't happen in other sports, which I think is a massive strength of fishing, because anyone can come and have a pot.
Makes it very unique.
But it also makes it very broad in the spectrum of attitude, personalities, people's profiles. You get this mix of people together that
Of course you do.
you probably wouldn't be able to get in any other sport.
Of course you do.
Which but it makes it a difficult one to create what we're talking about trying to create. How can you go to someone, you can enter this off the street, sound mate, not a problem, but then say to that same person, but you need to be professional, you need to be polite, you need to know how to speak like it's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a particularly hard one as well for the fisheries that are hosting qualifiers and things. I mean, come on, it's their livelihoods. They don't like to be told, it's a, they don't.
No.
It hurts. You take it personally.
Is it not something, again, and I'm coming at it from the outside, is it not something you as a fishery owner yourself, and it's something you could enforce in a set of rules? So you have a set of rules or rules that people must abide by on a match. Something like, poor etiquette or language towards other anglers is on the same level of,
It would be a hard one. I mean,
just,
at the draw, you could turn around and say, you're going to act as professionally as possible. You're not going to be X, Y, Z. During the match isn't probably so much of a problem. It's at the beginning of the match. If they draw badly, then they throw the teddies out of bed. come on. When I was fishing the canal circuit back in the 70s, you used to have a normal open. There'd be 80 pegs, at least. And you'd go down a piece of the Trenton Mersey Canal, 10 yards apart, paper pegged. Everybody used to go after the pegs. Nobody used to say, I've drawn an absolute doll because he's got a boat there. He's fishing to a boat. I ain't got a boat. They just say, well, he's got a boat. He's going to take some stopping. They didn't complain about it. You know, a peg's a peg. And I just don't get it when anglers have paid £50 for an entry ticket and they pay £20 pools and then don't even go to the pegs.
No.
Do you get that?
It's one of the reasons I don't do as many now. If I didn't do all the international stuff, Phil, I'd definitely go in more qualifiers, but I'd find it frustrating the lots and lots of expense and time and travel and money to draw a peg. Like for me, my fishing's about gunning the peg, getting the most out of it I can. But that kind of match doesn't suit that mentality because you need to go to your peg and try and win the match to qualify.
Yeah, I know it's about getting into a final.
Yeah.
But, you know, personally, you know, if you've drawn what is seen to be a difficult section, okay, if you don't want to win the 50 quid section prize and you want to gravel and dust it and go, then fine, it's a free country, do what you want. But personally, I would get a little bit of satisfaction coming back and say, do you know, I've had £80 of fish off that. Well, only £50 was expected. I've got £80. I've won my section, nothing else. But I'd personally feel good about doing fairly well on a difficult section. But that's me.
Yeah. I suppose different people are different, and you could argue that someone who does throw a tantrum or doesn't go to the peg, it's because they really want to win. But I don't know. It's not for me. It's not for me, the not turning up or not going to a peg. It's really not for me. I don't like that.
No.
I really don't like it. But
No.
one thing I'd say when you talk about professionalism, obviously I've fished a lot of your events, and you definitely brought in or wrapped them up in that little bit more professional bravado or wrapping paper, let's say. So, for example, the evening before the event, you did a film whereby you interview every competitor, tell us a little bit about who you are and how it started, what's your favourite food, what you're going to spend the money on, how you're feeling, like, and you made these films before, and you put them out before the match and you played them, and like you had everyone at a hotel having a lovely meal the night before, and I definitely think that you got a long way in bringing that to fishing as well. I know Fisho probably did the same a little bit early, but it's grown because of that now, definitely.
Yeah. My gala nights used to be, I think, very professional.
What were it, Stourport Manor?
Stourport Manor Hotel.
Stourport Manor, that were it, yeah.
And what stopped that was COVID. COVID stopped it in its tracks, and it never recovered from COVID. And of course, today's modern day costs now have influenced the decision on not doing gala evenings. But, you know, when we did them gala evenings, I mean, you're dead right. We used to build up to it. We used to do profiles on everybody, individual. I mean, you'd sit down and you'd be watching an hour of all the qualifiers getting there, you know, and how they got there, etc., etc. And everything was professional. We'd have like a professional band on, maybe a comedian, magicians walking around and Christ what. Then they would make the draw. The only downside to doing the draw the night before, I at the hotel that night, was some of them just go to bed straight away.
Yeah.
I'll go tie some rigs, you know, and off they'd disappear. And he won't mind me saying this, Jamie Hughes. Right? I remember at the gala evening, I said to Jamie, come on, made his draw. Well, can't win for that. I said, Jamie, you know you can win for that. He said, don't talk shit to me. Don't talk shit. Phil, you know you're talking shit. And I said, Jamie, you can. And he's gone to bed. He's disappeared.
Right.
The next morning, right, he's come up to me and I said, Jamie, you can win off that page. Don't talk daft. You know I can't. And he wins the match. He wins the match. If you remember, he was next to Upperton. Peter Upperton.
Bottom of the Burbank on Match Lake. Yeah.
Good
I was sat behind Jordan Holloway.
All right.
A few pegs to the left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
he caught down the edge.
Yeah. Now there's no end peg because he's got blockers.
Yeah.
But up he was end peg, but he got the blocker, right? And then there was Jamie Hughes. Now, to a point, I probably tried to make him feel good about it because it was a difficult peg he'd drawn. It was not going to be easy where Uppy was. Uppy's classically done his meat down the edge bit and everything else, and it was a very, very close match between the two. And if you remember, right at the death, Peter Upperton lost a good fish, and Jamie went on to catch 2 while he was playing the fish he lost.
Yeah.
Uppy lost and won it. And he's come back up and I said, I told you. And he's gone. That was it. So there's no such thing, as a bad peg. Fish swim around.
Got fins.
They've got fins. And everybody used to say, it's always won on an end peg at Larford. Hasn't been won on an end peg at Larford for years now. So that's telling you.
Yeah, the blockers definitely help that.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Definitely.
It's a really good way of doing it.
Definitely.
Before we move on, Phil, I'm listening to everything you've done at Maver, and I know that you've got this busy mindset. Did you ever get stressed about it? How did you handle yourself when you were in the midst of all this? Because we've just touched on the marketing side of it, but at the same time, you're managing the reps, you're looking at the product, you're talking to shop, like you're doing it all quite single-handedly, I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've obviously built a great team, and
Yeah.
you've got a lot of help around you, but did you ever feel the pressure? Did you ever feel stressed? Did you...
Every day.
Really?
Every day.
And how did you handle that?
It's something that you handle internally, You start showing any weaknesses and it's game, set and match. But yeah, I mean, the building of Maver cost me my marriage as well. I felt that at the time I was doing, the right job for the shareholders and everything else. I was working all hours God sent. I was travelling all over the world. I mean, I've done many, many, many countries in the world, And what I wasn't doing was spending enough quality time with my family. And it resulted in a divorce.
Wow.
And it was a very, very stressful time for me at that time, And of course, as it all sort of panned out, it just got worse and there was no repairs that could be made. And, I suffered with the kids and everything. I love my kids to bits. And it was a tough time for me. So if anybody's in business, whether they're at management level or at ownership level, call it what you will, they're going to get stressed. It's only natural that they're going to get stressed. If they care about what they're doing, they're going to get stressed. And I got stressed. And I got on top of that, the fishery as well. If the fishery wasn't doing well, or you've got a pollution or a fish death or whatever, all that's in the package. Thank you very much. You've got all that as well. So one could say there were days when I had a very, very short fuse. I used to be very fiery. I've mellowed a lot to what I was. But there's times when I was taking people's heads off as soon as I look at them. They say the wrong thing and I was away.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And did you have a bit of a rep for being like that within Maver, Phil?
Yeah.
But I suppose
I did.
that,
And I apologise to the lads over the years, but they know me well enough to know I was doing it in their interests. I'm a passionate person. I always have been. And however I put my passion across, it was for the welfare of the company and the welfare of them as well. I don't think the staff hated me, but they certainly had days when they didn't like me. Definitely. But at the end of it all, people that know me knew that I'd turn around and say, right, I've said my piece. I'm not saying any more on the matter. Now let's have a pint. Let's have a laugh. Let's go 10 pin bowling, whatever it was.
And I'm sure listening back, they'll have a lot of respect for that, hearing
I
that
hope
from
they
you
do,
now.
because I still have tremendous respect for everybody that I worked with at Maver, including all the Italians. I do have a load of respect for them. Strange things happen. We fell out, and that happens in life.
How did you come out of Maver, Phil? And when was it?
Well, I came out. It's about, I don't know, 7 years ago now, or something, 8 years ago, and there was some issues going on. I'm not going into whys and wherefore, but there was some issues going on, and in the end, it was Phil's going, I'm going, And then COVID came in, if you remember, in between times. And I developed prostate cancer as well.
Right.
Whether or not any of this was contribution towards my health or not, I don't know. But there were some dark times there for me. And there isn't a day where I don't wake up in the morning or go to bed at night. I still think about Maver. Even now, it's either Maver or the Lakes. I still all match this, golden reel or golden rod.
Yeah.
It's all going on.
And match this. You just said it there.
Yeah. And I still think about match this, and I still say, how many do they have, and why are they getting more anglers than I'm getting? You know, I don't get that bit, but it happens. I mean, match this has been going on longer now, so whether they trust more in match this and don't trust so much in mine, I don't know. But I'm getting my sellouts now. But it's not easy to sell tickets. And the reason it's not easy to sell tickets, common fact knowledge, it's about this.
Money.
People haven't got it. They haven't got it. And to go and fish a major match now, you're talking 150 to 200 quid. Your ticket, 50 quid. Pools, 20 quid. Breakfast.
Bait.
Going to places like Lindome, where you've got a pile of castor in.
Gallon of casters. Need it.
How much that cost? How much is a gallon of castor?
40 quid.
Well, there you go. How many anglers can afford 40 quid just on that one bait? Never mind pellet and everything else.
You need 3 bags of pellets as well, probably, don't you? And
there you go. So they're expensive things.
It's frightening. I'd like to ask you a little bit more about it. You touched on your illness then, Phil. Obviously, I don't know much about it. I know you were ill for a while. Are you okay now?
I'm perfectly all right now.
Good. What happened?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I was having... look, with prostate cancer, you've got obvious signs most of the time. Right. And I was on the banks of the River Tyne with Dennis. And I will go on to tell you a few stories about Dennis with Salmon. We had some great times together. And I remember Dennis saying, we stood on the bank, fishing away, out in the wilderness, nobody about. I put my rod down, I've had a pee, like anglers do. And Dennis's glanced down. He says, "Now then, father, thou wants to get thyself checked out." I said, "What are you on about?" He says, "That's dribbling. Thou wants to get yourself checked out." Otherwise, I was peeing a bit slow, right? And I thought, he's right. And I knew that wasn't right. And I knew I was getting up too many times in the night for a pee.
Okay.
And I thought, yeah, but it's a man's thing. I'm getting older. It's a man's thing. And that's the problem. A lot of people out there dismiss it. They go, well, it's just a man thing. I'm getting older and this, that and the other. It takes 5 minutes to have a blood test. And I hadn't, I never took it any further than that point. I was prepared to carry on. And I went in for some pills. I went in for some high cholesterol pills. And the doctor came, or doctor's assistant came out and said, "Oh, doctor needs a blood test off. He wants to see how these pills are doing for you." Right? So it was a routine blood test on my statins, high cholesterol pills. So I had the blood test done, and I remember taking out Larissa, my partner, for a pub meal. I had the blood test done on the Monday, and I took her out, and it was a Tuesday night. Phone's rung. I've gone, who's phoning me? Picked it up, and I've gone, "Oh, doctor's surgery? I was only in there yesterday," and I thought, oh, they're phoning me this quickly, there's something wrong here. Secretary said, "Oh, Mr. Briscoe, doctor would like to see you." I said, "What's it about?" "Oh, I can't divulge that." I said, "Yes, you can, else I'm not coming in." She said, "Oh, it's something to do with your PSA levels." Okay. 11 o'clock next morning. So I put the phone down and I sat down and I said, what's PSA? And I've gone, P, prostrate. I said, oh, God. I think it's a prostrate discovery or something, So I went in the next day and the doctor's gone, "You've got a very high level of prostrate reading. I need to examine you." So the rubber gloves have gone on and hey, thank you very much, good night. And he said, "Yes, you've got quite a large prostrate there." So straight away, all the tests were put together, of which there were many, I have to say. But they were thorough and everything. They gave me a bone scan. This was all, not saying I'd got cancer, but all the steps to see if I had and where it could be. They're all clean, all came back clean. The very last thing was, of course, the biopsy, which is not a very pleasant thing, but essential. And I had about 17 or 18 nicks taken out of it. And off they were sent. And then a week later, I got the call to go into the hospital, into oncology, and the surgeon was sat there, and ever such a nice guy, Egyptian he was, brilliant surgeon. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Briscoe, you're looking very well. You're very tanned." He said, "Have you been away?" No, just been up the lakes. And I said, "All right." Got my daughter with me, youngest daughter, and he's gone, "You've got prostate cancer," just like that. Jesus Christ. And I wept like a baby.
Wow.
I wept like a baby. And my younger daughters grabbed my arms. "Come on, Dad, you're all right." And he said, "No," he said, "What? Don't get upset," he said. He said, I can do this for you." He said, "You're very close." He said, "If you'd have left it any longer, it might have been non-operable." He said, "But we're in time." He said, "You have to go off now and decide whether you want surgery or whether you want radiotherapy. See this man here for radiotherapy or see me for surgery. You've got to make the decision." So off I've gone. And I've seen the radiotherapist, the consultant. And there was just too many bad things that can happen.
What like?
Well, the side effects were huge, and I'm going, I don't want to not be in control of my waterworks and things like that. Something like that would destroy me. I'm saying it as I feel.
Which you can only be honest.
I can only be honest about it, and I didn't want that. So a good friend of mine, Steve Hutchinson, that's got the Salmon club that I fish in up in on the River Tyne, Newcastle way. He just had prostate cancer. He'd got over his. He's still having a few side effects on other things, but generally speaking, he's soldiering on. I told him about it, and he said, "Phil, you've got to have it out." He says, "It's a ticking time bomb inside you." He said, "You've got to have it out." So I took his advice, went back to the surgeon, and I said, I've decided I want to have surgery. And he's gone, "You're making the right decision." But he couldn't tell me that initially.
He's not allowed to.
He's not allowed to, is he? Because if it went wrong, there could be repercussions. Well, you said, and all that. He just said, "You have to make the decision." And he said, "You're doing the right thing." And I said, "Well, you'll be doing it robotically, won't you?" And he said, No. He said, I'm going to go in. I'm going to make sure I've got it all. So it was only 3 months maybe, and I was in. And I remember it because it was one day after my birthday, and I thought, great birthday present this,
Got to go in and get cut open.
Yeah.
God.
And I've sat there pre-op, and I've seen the priest has been in. I thought, ooh, Yeah, I said some prayers. I did. And I said to the anaesthetist, I said, "I'm really worried about you." She said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I smoke." And I said, and I want to come through. I don't want to die.
This is just
under
before
anaesthetic.
This is just before she's putting you under.
Yeah. And she said, "There's absolutely no worries there. I'll see you when you wake up." And she said, "I'm going to pop this mask on you." She said, "It'll smell a bit strange, and then it'll go like a woody effect, and you'll just go straight to sleep." And that's exactly what happened. And I remember waking up, and I was in the recovery room, and the sun was coming straight through the glass, straight in my face. And I thought, I've passed away. I did, honestly. I passed away, yeah. I thought, you've got all the nice and blue skies, and hey, this is all right,
You're in the waiting room.
Then I've realised straight away, I've got through it.
Wow.
And I hadn't said anything, but the nurses turned around and looked at me and said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Briscoe," and they wheeled me back in. And yeah, it was quite a long recovery time for me, to be fair. But I got through it all. Everything works You know, I can pee for England now, you know.
Good.
And all I'm going to say is that it's really big in men, this, you know. And I would urge everybody, don't be scared about it. You know, if something's not right, if you're not peeing correctly, if you're not peeing at all, if you're peeing too much, anything that you don't think's right, go to the doctor. Just say, can I have a prostate test? It's as simple as that. And a lot of people will be thankful for that, because there's people, most of the people that have prostate problems don't know they've got the problem. Those that don't know could lose their lives.
Like you said, a month, 2 months, however much later, and you might have been dealing with something much more sinister.
Absolutely. I definitely know I would not be here now. I've been very, very lucky to be diagnosed the way I was. So get yourselves checked.
Well, almost a lucky diagnosis by the sounds of things.
Get
Phil.
yourselves checked. Life goes on. I'm perfectly well now. Just getting older, that's all. I'm perfectly well. But I'm sure I would not be sat here now if I hadn't have had that lucky blood test.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. It's not always an easy one to talk about, but hearing it from yourself, like you say, I'm sure so many people have a lot of respect for that. And
well, all I'll say to summarise on this, to close on this, the amount of people, the clubs that I have come into my lakes, and you go, where's Sutton? Where? Oh, he's died. What's he died from? Prostate cancer. You know, I've lost a lot of good anglers coming to my place that have gone through prostate cancer. So get yourself checked. It's so important you do.
Awesome. Well said, Phil. Fantastic. We've touched on Larford Lakes a lot, constantly through this.
Yeah.
I don't know the story behind Larford. The first time I ever saw the lakes was Matt Hayes fishing it on Total Fishing, and it was when it was one huge lake.
Yeah.
And then the next time I saw Larford, I was 12 years old, and I went and watched an England trial on it. You were there that day. And I was just walking around with my dad watching Mark Downs' trial before I even dipped my toe into that kind of... That was the first, which is 22 years ago now. And how the hell did Larford come about? How did you get Larford?
Well, I told you I was going up to collect a debt. You remember it earlier? I was
off
going
camera we were talking about this, weren't we?
Oh, were we?
Yeah,
I'm
we were.
sorry. Well, I'll bring you back into the picture then. I had to go to collect a debt off a retailer. I couldn't get this debt. It was about £1,000. It wasn't an enormous amount of money, but I couldn't get it. And I thought, I'm going to personally go up and get this debt off him.
So you're a debt collector as well now?
I was a debt collector as well. I got to the shop and I was told, no, he's at home. I said, well, where's his home? He said, he'll be at the Challies. I said, Challies where? It said at Larford. They called it Larford Farm, I think, or Larford Farm something. And I didn't know where that was. Anyway, put it in my sat-nav and I get to Larford Lakes. And I go through these gates and I go down this pathway to these shanty type of barn huts. Call them what you will. There were some nice ones there, don't get me wrong, but there were some pretty tatty ones as well in them days. And he's up the hill there. I could see where his place was. But as I'm going down the road, I looked at him and I thought, wow, what's that? And there's this huge space of water there, you know. Wow. Felt like... Anyway, carries on. Sees Bill Leavesley, and he's found this little bag with pound notes in it sort of thing, and he's paid me off.
You get your money?
I got me money.
Cash?
Yeah. And then I got a cup of tea in a very dirty cup, I remember. And I said, Bill, there's a lake down there. Who's got that? He said, oh, BAA had it. They've just come off it. I said, so it's up for grabs? He said, yeah. Got in touch with the agent. I got it 2 days later.
Get away.
I got it 2 days later. Then I had that lake, you know, for 2 years, right? And I threw stock after stock after stock after stock in there. My opening stocking was over 100,000 carp went in there.
Wow.
Huge amount. Only smallish fish, but 100,000 went in.
Is this when it was one lake?
When it was one lake. Couldn't get a bite. I went 2 years. Couldn't get a bite. Never had a bite. Honest to God. I thought, well, I've bought a pup here now. But when a fish was caught, it was a big one. Right? And I had a little syndicate of season ticket holders on, maybe 20 or 30, and they were catching these big fish. Not very often, but when they got one, it was 30 plus, you know. But you couldn't get a bite off a bream, a roach, a perch, nothing. I thought, this is never right. Anyway, it had got quite a lot of weed in it, and I got a professional company in to weed treat it. So we got rid of the weed. Still couldn't catch anything. Still kept putting fish in, couldn't catch anything. And I thought, well, I'm going to get this split. I'm going to get it divisionalised into 2 lakes at the time. So I made my inquiries, contacted the council, got the planning permission passed to put a burr right down the middle, make it into 2 lakes. So I've done that. The moment I closed that burr, the moment the fishing went, wow. Because I'd pinned some in, some had gone that side, so I had no idea where my stock levels were, but quite clearly you could go anywhere on the lakes and get bites now. And then I went, right. And I think I was probably either the first or the second in the country to put F1s in. I was one of the pioneers, if you like. And I put in a huge amount of F1s into the match lake. And I remember closing that burr and putting the first match on it. And the grass hadn't grown, and you know it wasn't really ready. But I opened it up, and I had a club match down the burr bank and a club match down the grass bank. They blew in at the same time, and every single angler on both banks, first chuck, would play the fish. I thought, mega,
Got it.
Done it.
Yes.
And then the third, stage 3, was I split the bottom end off and made the arena lake. So all in all, it's had a lot of fish, but I don't think it would ever have got to where it is now if I hadn't have done those divisions.
And you literally then got a load of rubble, mud, whatever it might be, and just filled in and created the split.
Yeah.
So what we drive along now, the burr,
Yeah.
that just got filled in.
Yeah, it was quite hairy to watch what was going on, because you wouldn't have wanted to been sat on the machine pushing in there because you were going into deep water, but it was pure inert clay, right? Nothing else. Pure inert clay. A bit of stone. You don't have a problem with stone because it binds as well. It helps bind. But you didn't put in building site brick and non-inert or inert concrete and stuff like that. No, that was turned away. You didn't get anything other than clay and good quality stone going in to make the burrs. And they started at one end, and they just wagon after wagon after wagon after wagon was coming in. He'd tip, a bulldozer would push straight into the line where the burr was going to go. He'd push in, another one, push in, push in, push in, started to raise it on the top, drive onto the top of it, and do the next bit. And then that way, they just kept going along till they made the whole length of the burr, and then the big machines came in and basted up to form your edges.
Got you.
And fantastic. I mean, absolutely brilliant.
Worked a treat.
Yeah. And, it totally changed the lake round from being very difficult to very, very good. I mean, Larford chucks up a lot of fish, you know it does.
It's one of the most reputable venues in the country. People love going there. They have done forever. I mean, the first few times I match fished it, remember Maver Pairs?
Yes.
That were a great event, wasn't it?
I know, and it's a pity that doesn't happen now.
No.
I should probably, bring that back to life.
Golden Pairs.
It's
got a ring to it, hasn't it?
And the classic. Remember the
Yeah.
final used to be first week in May Bank holiday.
Yeah,
All those sort of events should come back.
I can remember.
But it's so hard now because there's so much going on every weekend, so much competition with little competitions, big competitions. You've only got so many weeks in a year, so many weekends. And I'm afraid what's happening now is you've just not got the volume of anglers to warrant all these matches. Everything's getting diluted down.
Well, speaking from your point of view, you've got golden reel and golden rod events
Correct.
now that you run. Where did they come from? Before we talk about the problems of the qualifiers and match fishing now, where did golden rod, golden reel come from, Phil?
Well, golden reel came from when I left Maver. I thought, look, I was going to get and enjoy this type of event, these sort of qualifiers. So naturally I went, well, okay, I'm on my own here now. I'm going to do a similar thing, and I called it golden reel.
Because you must have felt like you'd got Match This going, and then you've almost had to hand that over as you've
Did I
departed.
hand it over? Yeah. So I just did. Next step on, I'm going to do my own, and I did golden reel. And with golden rod, I'd seen what had happened with the Preston Innovations Feeder Championships.
Feeder Masters.
Job,
yeah.
And it was Mickey Valdi himself who said to me, you should do something similar in the winter. And I said, well, yeah, because a lot of people are looking at the diaries going, I haven't really got any matches to go to. So, yeah, I do a feeder series during difficult weather conditions, But I pick the right venues, I think, where you can get bites.
Yeah.
And as you know, the majority of my matches are on the bigger commercials where you can get a chuck.
Yeah.
I would never, ever dream of going on to a commercial fishery, little canals where you're underarm into the far bank and that sort of thing. You've got to be able to chuck to enjoy a feeder match, haven't you?
Agree. Totally agree.
So that's where we were.
So you've got golden reel. What does the winner of golden reel get nowadays?
Depends on how the event is supported.
Yeah.
I have paid 50. I've paid lesser. I've paid like 35s and 40,000. It depends on how much we get supported.
It has to. It's obviously in proportion to entry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can only pay out what's paid in.
Yeah. And golden rod basically sells out. I'm right in thinking.
Yeah. Every single one sells out, and a lot of them way in advance. Tickets have gone live today on the site, or yesterday.
Yeah,
didn't you say?
I saw it. I'm sure it went live really late last night or first thing this morning.
So 31st of May last night, as they went on the site and telling everybody when and where these matches are, of which there's a couple of new venues on there, and tickets go live for golden rod feeder tickets on, I think it's Friday the 20th of June,
Awesome.
6 o'clock.
Well, this podcast will probably be out then, so they're probably live now if you're listening.
Right.
If you want to get booked in early.
Get your tickets, everybody, come on. I've got mouths to feed, fines to pay.
I didn't think you were a salesman, Phil. And you've mentioned entries to these qualifiers now, and there been a lot of them. What's the pattern that you've seen, and why do you think we've got that pattern going now, Phil? You've seen it over a long time now, decades.
You mean tickets for a match
Qualifiers.
online?
Online. Well, it's all online.
Yeah. Well, all I'm going to say is tickets online are becoming more and more difficult to sell. If the organiser being me, and the fisheries that are participating in terms of supplying the venue, we need to know what's going on. We need to know, if I book, for argument's sake, 60 pegs with Lindome or 60 pegs with Partridge will be phoning me 2 weeks before the event and saying, how many tickets you sold? And I'll go, a minute, 3. What? I'll say, yeah, but the problem is the ticket sales are online, the close date is this, and they will leave it till the last possible minute before they part with the money. So it's very, very difficult to plan for. There are times when I want to put a few extra pegs in. I can't if I don't know what the numbers are. And then they're phoning me, anglers will be phoning me at midnight on the Friday night saying, can I get a ticket for Saturday morning?
Your phone will genuinely ring at that time.
At midnight. And I'm getting to a point now where I go, no, I'm not answering that.
Yeah.
Not answering that. And then en route, the weekend just gone, en route, I was 3/4 of the way to Doncaster and my phone's ringing. Can I get on? Can I go? I'm going, well, I probably could, but why are you phoning me now? They've been on the site for 6 months. Why haven't you booked online?
And if you ran that event, Phil, and said, right, we've got this amount of tickets, you have to book on at this particular date, there's no online after this date, do you think it'd work and you'd get the sellouts, or do you think it wouldn't work because there's that many options now?
I think it wouldn't work because there's that many options. I mean, they're saying to me now, I'm extending often or not the cut-off time and date, extending it, and they still go past that, and they'll ring me and they'll go, bearing in mind, I'm talking about like 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon for a Sunday match. I've extended it until 2, and I'll be getting calls at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night saying, Oh, I know you extended it. I wanted to book on, but the site's gone down. I said, yeah, the site's gone down because it was cut off at 2:00.
Yeah.
You can't plan for it, Matt.
We've almost given them too much freedom and too many options.
And I do understand at the end of the day that they can be in a certain event, and maybe if they get a good result on the Saturday, they'd fish the Sunday. But if they collapse on the Saturday, they might take a view of, I'm not going there on the Sunday as well now. I'll book on, but they've missed the deadline. I understand that, but there has to be a line drawn somewhere that says you've got a certain time to book on, else we can't plan. And I get stick then off the fisheries. I mean, let's be fair. Every fishery hosting that event is running a business, right? If they've got 150 pegs, for argument's sake, and I want 100 of them, then they're entitled to sell the other 50. If I say to them, I've only sold 60 pegs, they've got an opportunity to sell some pleasure pegs that they know are now going to be available. And you have to plan for this. They're a business. You have to plan for it. Definitely.
Do you think that there are too many qualifiers for the amount of people fishing them nowadays?
Yeah. There's too many things going on without a shadow of doubt, Matt. And I mean, good luck to everybody that wants to have a go. But all these little 20 peggers and fish this, fish that, and oh dear, and all the festivals that's going on, it's just too much for the calendar. Because I can't speak, as the fishing business is going. I mean, I don't know how many anglers we've got now, but I would say probably rod licence-wise, less than 1 million, I would say. How many of them are actual match anglers?
How many match anglers do you think there are in the UK?
Well,
to put a figure on it.
Well, if I said, let's say a match angler at the level to fish the likes of Match This, Golden Reel, Fisho. I mean, Fisho, let's get this absolutely straight. A lot of club anglers, lower level anglers, fish Fisho. They're going to have a go, right? They've got an opportunity. They're going to have a go, and hopefully one of them's going to win. But it's nearly always won by a top professional, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the amount of matches that's out there spread into what I think is a true number of polished match anglers, I would say is less than 300 you're actually targeting.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a tiny number.
It's a tiny number. People argue, there's more match anglers than that. Yes, there is. But the club level, the certain sort of small open level.
Yeah, local venue.
But the big polished matches where they take a view and say, I'm not good enough to fish that, I bet there's barely 300 total.
And you must be able to see that from names that you get appearing on tickets.
Absolutely.
Week after week, year after year.
Yeah, I do. I see it very much in Golden Reel, but the Golden Rod, and if I'm honest, the Golden Rod for me is my preferred event, in that the people that fish Golden Rod are really nice people. And it's simple, straightforward, pick a rod up, chuck a feeder out. Less preparation, lovely people fishing it. If they don't win, they don't win. If they draw bad, they don't moan. They're a different breed.
And it's feeder only, Golden Rod, isn't it?
Feeder only.
In the winter.
And what I like about Golden Rod, it is pretty well a leveler. Your Steve Ringers and everybody in this world, they're still going to chuck a feeder, right? They perhaps chuck it a bit further than the average guy can, maybe. But at the end of the day, it's one feeder, hitting bottom, one bait. You can't lose feed or anything like that. It's all through the feeder. It's a leveler.
Are you saying that feeder fishing's less skillful than float fishing?
I think feeder fishing is very, very skillful. But at the end of the day, as long as you're putting that feeder in the same place, if I were to fish it, I wouldn't bother with 3 lines. I wouldn't bother around with all these measuring sticks and Christ knows what. No way. I'd just go, no, yeah, that's on, clip up, I'm fishing. And I keep it going down that same hole. End of story. What's difficult about that? Tip goes round, happy days.
You make it sound very simple.
Well, it is simple.
10 grand richer, is it 12 grand?
12 grand to the winner on the on the feeder.
Golden Rod.
Yeah. And it pays out to, I think it's 9th or 10th place. plus a load of sections.
2-day final as well.
2-day final. Has to be a 2-day final because you got over 60 in the final. So you can't do that. It's the same as Golden Reel. People have said to me, why don't you make it a 2-day event? I could make it a 2-day event, but there's certain anglers that are just going to go, I'm not doing that because I put all the effort into day one and I win the event effectively, and then I go into the second day and do badly. I've won nothing. They'd rather have that sort of Wembley final, not over 2 days.
Do you think, obviously, like you've seen match fishing develop, evolve, you've contributed a lot towards it in running matches, you've got a fishery, you see the different clienteles that turn up. Do you think there's a gap for anything new in match fishing that's really outside the box and different? Do you think we'll ever see anything, wow, never saw that one coming? Do you think that it's got any scope for any of that to come along anytime soon?
I can't see what you can do with, it's either a 4 or 5 hour match in my opinion, I've had the bookies talking to me about Sky participation. They're saying, look, they do Fishermania, but they really don't like to film something for 4 or 5 hours. It takes a lot of watching you got to be brave to watch Fish Show for 5 hours, haven't you?
It's quite boring.
I've gone,
fishing.
I'm asleep.
Yeah.
I've gone, it's a long time. And it's Big Gary Wiltshire. Yeah, Belly from the telly. He said to me, why don't you look at doing a day where you can have a knockout every hour? Somebody gets knocked out. I said, well, it's different, but how seriously people would take an hour's fishing, I don't know. Could you take it seriously, an hour's fishing?
Not sure, because it's so against how I'm programmed to sit and fish a match.
Yeah.
But if you said, would you take an hour's fishing serious to win 50 grand, it puts a different spin on it, doesn't it?
Maybe. Because that, you see, is what Sky would want. They need to see immediate action. 5 hours of watching 20-odd guys fishing around a lake is too much, in my opinion. And I'm sure it's too much for them.
It would make it a spectacle, though, wouldn't it? Because we always compare darts is like fishing. Darts used to be very, small compared to what it is now.
Absolutely.
Working man's pub sport.
Exactly. It has very similar aspects, and now it's become this massive spectacle. Yes, that's off the back of some individuals, but it became a show, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's more than just the match, and a format like that, I think fishing could do the same.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're right, but how to get there, I don't know. And how many people you would have to put in it. Because if it's a knockout and you're going like, well, I was fishing, I've knocked you out, next hour Jamie Hughes has knocked me out, and it goes on till you get 2 finalists, then maybe you defeated the object again. You put too much fishing time into it. What can you do in 1 hour, apart from what you probably just said? Maybe selective 12 guys or something, and you say, there's £10,000 up for grabs, and you 10 have got to fight it out.
Yeah.
Where else could... Matt, I don't know.
It's a whole different concept, but I think if someone... I'm looking across the table at you, Phil.
Yeah, go on.
If someone sorted it out and made something happen with the right backing and with the right push and media and prize pot that'd draw some attention to it, then I think there's scope for something. Toby will love this. Like, his brain will be ticking now about this. Definitely, I know it will. But like, why not just have a 1 hour match? Why not go to a lake and have a 1 hour match?
I tell you what now.
You'd have the start, the middle, the end, and everything happening, but just in a tiny little space of time.
I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I'll make a mega £10,000 final where the hours are short, good television time, get Sky in, you put money up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You'd do it?
I'll do it.
Adam Rooney, you'll be listening to this podcast.
Well,
there's your proposal.
What about everyone listening? I'd like to see the reaction in the comments of that, what people would think about a massive change in... Because I'm not an angler, but I'm already more excited in something like that because it becomes, as a viewer, it becomes more palatable, doesn't it?
What do you lot think, folks, listening? Like, we're sat here talking, and Phil's got so much experience in fisheries, anglers, running these events.
And also experience backed up by successful endeavours. You've done things like that, changed the game, and it's done well.
Would you lot like to see, or have you got any suggestions for a different format in match fishing? Would a 1 hour match work? Let us know your opinions below, because it'd be great to see what the people listening think.
And if the comments light up as well, we could have a new final here.
Yeah, of course we could.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a tremendous spectacle. And somebody like Sky would get behind that. Definitely get behind that. Gary Wiltshire's told me they would. But when it's a 5 hour thing, you know, that's a lot of prime viewing time for other things.
The difference it will be here as well is the wider world under the, like you just said, the right coverage of Sky and the right marketing and everything like that. The wider world can watch an hour.
Yes.
So then you start raising profiles of people like, as I say, Bennett for an example, but a Bennett who's maybe wins whatever this thing is once, twice, 3 times. Bennett's come back defending his crown, and then all of a sudden he's, you know.
Would it make fishing more accessible? Because for me to go fishing, Phil, I have to leave my house at 6 a.m. and I don't get back in till 7, 8 o'clock at night. But if matches were an hour, would you create this whole new part of match fishing where I'm going to fish the match, I'll see you at dinner time?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, that's appealing. Because I hear people go play golf because I'm done for 11 a.m. and I can go and take the kids out. Or I can go after work. Or
I think it does make it more accessible. It does, because then you're offering people back time.
Yes, yeah.
Come and take part of this, and like you said, you can go home, see the kids by lunchtime.
I mean, I could still do qualifiers to get to where your 10 finalists are. Still put it out there. Maybe 40, 50, 60 pegs, you could still do that. And the winner goes through to this 10 peg. Well, it'd be 10 qualifiers, wouldn't it? If you've got 10 finalists, it'd be 10 qualifiers, right? So I can produce an income from them tickets to go towards the final. You put the icing on the cake. And call it the Guru whatever.
Goose.
And I'll put a brilliant final on for you.
All right.
That's your challenge.
Okay. Well, we might have some out of this,
And
might
we
we?
put it out there to the public now as well.
Yeah.
You know, if there's some interest.
Would it eliminate my mind?
You can't fish it though.
Yeah, I can't.
You can't.
Now he's interested.
Would it make match fishing fairer? Because at the start of the match, the fish is spread out, and often we've talked about end pegs, but they often come good later. Fish come down the edge. Like, would there be more areas of the lake with more fish?
Oh God!
Would everything be more spread out? And there's an hour, everyone's in, bang, 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 crash, bang, wallop, fish. Oh my God, he's won over there. Yeah. She's done brilliant over there. Like, would it?
10 pegs, think about that. 10 pegs, be it on the match lake or the special lake. 10 pegs, I can go like peg 1, miss 5.
God, that'd be good.
But who's not going to catch fish?
The opposite.
I'm fishing that now.
The opposite. 100 pegger, 1 hour match.
Yeah.
And you sell tickets.
Yeah.
And it's first come, first serve.
Yeah.
You'd sell it out.
I would, and I get a pole dancer there as well.
Book me on. What a great conversation. This goes off on all sorts of tangents.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What's your best memory of Larford Lakes, Phil?
What's my best memory of Larford Lakes? Well, I upset the apple cart once down there. You know that, don't you?
Go on.
Well, I decided, we have a festival first week in August every year. And we've never had floating baits, never. And I've decided in my infinite wisdom, I'm going to allow floating baits this year. And I've gone down on the festival, day one, and I've pulled a fly rod out my tackle. Carl Jones on there. What's that? I said, plan B this. And I fished with a fly rod, weight forward 7s line, long leader, hook, hair rigged with a cork ball on it. And everybody, because you could fish floating baits, some would find a few dog biscuits and one thing and another. I'd find out 2 or 3 dog biscuits, hold my fly rod here, wait, and then you see another one, big fish out. What?
On the fly rod.
On the fly rod.
What, fly casting it?
Yeah, and everybody
on
was...
your seat box?
Everybody was taking the piss out of me, wicked, right? And then it went very quiet, because I was absolutely sacking, right? And on the first day, I had nearly 400 pounds of fish on a fly rod. Then I'm getting certain big anglers in the game saying, shouldn't be allowed. Anyway, you're fishing with an artificial bait. And I said, what are you talking about? You're fishing with cork ball. I said, hang on, where's cork come from? Well, from a tree. I said, a tree's a living thing, so it's not artificial bait. Well, it's not, is it? Right. Anyway, I've got all the way through. I fished Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on a bleeding fly rod. And the last day I was on the arena. And I've gone, put that away. I'll just paste fish it. And I won the lake on paste.
So did you win the festival?
No, I come second.
No! Who beat you?
Paul Hubbard from Solihull. He banged the candle out all 5 days, right? But I did prove a point at the end. I said, well, look, I've gone on with paste. I've had 60 or 70 kilo on the paste. And I says, there you go. But they didn't like it.
No.
So there you go. I nearly bought you the second trophy as the gift that I give to podcast.
Right.
Because I daren't show it to anybody because it just starts that conversation off.
Well, you're going to get them talking about it now you've mentioned it anyway,
I
aren't you?
I know.
Incredible.
I used to win a few things. Trust me, I did.
I know you did.
You know, and people say, oh, what's Briscoe know about it? I'm telling you, you know. I've been there, won the T-shirt.
Do you do much fishing now, Phil? Do you get much time to do much yourself now?
You know, since my prostate cancer, I've fished less. I'll be honest about that. I just got in there one day and I said, because it was harder to set up and harder to carry stuff after that surgery. You know, it still is for me now. But I got in and I remember doing all the peg cards, doing the draw, and Julian, who works for me, turned around and saying, you better get going, you. And I said, Julian, do you know, I can't be bothered. I'd drawn a peg, paid my pools, and I went, I ain't fishing. And I haven't fished since.
Wow.
I haven't fished since. I still walk around and I still want to pick a rod up and I still sit on people's gear and say, let me have a go and one thing and another. But the only fishing I do now is my first love, which is salmon fishing.
And how often do you get a chance to do that and where?
Well, I haven't done as much as I normally do because, again, COVID came into it. All sorts of problems come into it. Weather changes. I mean, this year, I've not been yet because we've had no rain. I mean, the rivers are absolutely to the bones. And the river in Newcastle, which is the south and the north Tyne, there's just no water for a salmon to get up. As soon as you have a flush through, I've no doubt Hutchie will phone me up and say, get yourself down, there's loads of salmon. Loads of salmon.
And how do you fish for them, Phil?
Well, I'll do what the river tells me to do. If I get down there and it's a flooded river, I'll fish a spinner. Of course I will. I'll fish a worm. I'll fish a shrimp, and I love the shrimp.
Go on, tell me about the shrimp.
And I will fly fish, but the shrimp is, oh man.
And do you just fish it on coarse tackle?
Yeah. Oh.
I'd love a pop at this.
Look, I don't mean to be rude to any of my fellow club anglers that might be watching this now.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a coarse angler and a fly angler, a big one. In that, the coarse angler knows his rivercraft far better than a salmon angler does. They would argue with me on that, but I'm telling you. Now, I've gone down to the Tyne on many occasions. Remember going down to the South Tyne, getting on the water, just arrived, and there was one of the club anglers on there. And I've walked down to him. He's greeted me and said, are you down for a week? Yep, down for a week. And I've said to him, how many salmon you had this year so far? He says, oh, I've had one. Now, bearing in mind, he's going there like 3-4 times a week because he lives down there.
A whole year?
Yeah. And I've gone, all right, oh, well done. And he says to me, where are you going now? I said, well, I normally start here, but I'll go further down, walk back. No, he said, get in. I haven't seen a fish all day, he said. I said, okay. So I take my rod out, put my bollo float on.
Don't you fish a big bollo?
Bollo, not a huge bollo, maybe 4 swan, which I don't call that a huge bollo, but 4 swan, BB dropper, you know, proper dropper, swivel, length of line, treble and pin. That's how I fish it. Right. Dead easy. And I've set this up, and he's watching me set all this up. And I put my purple shrimp on, underarmed it. I pretty well know the depth of all the stretches, But it tells you straight away if your float's doing this and dragging back, take a bit more off and something like that. Anyway, I swung it out. It's gone down. First chuck. Clunk. She's got a fish. I said, yeah.
No.
Got this fish, an 18-pounder, silver.
I bet his head were coming off.
Yeah, and I've gone, and I put it back. He'd have probably...
Are you allowed to take them, like?
You can take one a week, but I'm more interested in catching them and returning them safely than eating them,
Yeah.
Anyway, put this fish back. I've taken a step to my left, put another shrimp on, underarmed it out, second run down, wallop, got another one, about the same size. Now, I've caught him in the corner of my eye, and he's doing this with his feet. And I said, what's the matter? And he says, well, he said, I've fished all season, you just had 2 in 2 casts. will you show me how to shrimp fish? I said, look, and there's a float, and I've gone, there you go. There's some rubbers. All right. Have you got any shot? No. There's a little tub of swan, and there's a little tub of BBs. Give him them. I give him maybe 2 or 3 trebles and a couple of pins.
What do you mean by a pin, Phil?
A pin is a fishing hook that's not been bent.
Ah, like literally a sewing pin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You've got the eye on the end where you tie the line.
Yeah.
You've got the straight, which is bent into your curve, and it's got the barb on it. So it's a straight with a barb and a loop on the end.
And you push that into prawn.
You push that, you get your prawn, which is folded up like that, and you open the prawn up straight. You put the shrimp through the base of its tail and right through to his chin.
Yeah.
So you don't see the pin, apart from the loop at the bottom, the eye.
Yeah.
And the line obviously is running through the eye. And then you get the treble and you hook him under the chin. You put 1 hook in, leave 2 showing. So that when it's on, it's in a swimming position, right? And a shrimp or a prawn, I don't like prawns, it moves too many fish out your peg. Shrimp, you'll keep the fish in your peg.
Why?
I don't know, it's just one of them things. I've seen it before where they cast into the pool with a great big prawn on it, and you'll see 2 or 3 fish go whoosh. And the thing is with a prawn, you normally, if there's fish in the pool, you get one first chuck, but you won't catch another one. With a shrimp, it don't spook them.
You're into this, aren't you?
I'm big
I can
into
tell
it.
there's a
I'm
lot
big into
to it.
I'm big into it. And I should have taken a bet off a Scotsman, because it were gloves off one day, Dan. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Right. And I've given him all this gear. And I said, right, I'm not giving you any of my shrimps. I said, those are sacred, them, because I fish with purple ones. Dyed purple.
Why?
Because in the sea, when they go a purple colour, they're carrying their eggs. Now, I'll tell you another little trick here. If you're buying your shrimps and they've got no eggs on them, chuck them away. If they've got a layer of eggs on the bottom, catches.
What, because of nutrition and...
Yeah, at sea, the salmon are taking them particularly when they've got a layer of eggs on them. All right.
You're into it, aren't you?
I'm into it.
Flipping heck, no wonder you don't go match fishing. You're salmon hunting on shrimp.
It's good job on them as well, you do, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, you do. Anyway, I've given you all this stuff, and I said, right. I said, I'll see you when I see you. Next day, I've gone down to the same stretch. He's walking up the towpath, and he's got his rod set up. I thought, right. And he's got a float on. I could see it as he was walking up, Well, he's got a pencil slider sea float about this big, about a foot long, right? He's got a bullet as big as a big marble, right? He's got no drop shot on it. He's got a treble, which must be a size 4. I use a size 12 or a 10. Right?
Bit of finesse.
Which is small for salmon fishing, but lethal. He's got about a size 4 on it, and he's got a treble, a pin that's got to be that long. And I said to him, go down to Tesco's, you'll be able to buy the little shrimps. The only difference is the whiskers tend to come off when they're in the baskets when you're buying them, but you'll still catch on them. Man, I got the full whiskers on, right?
So into it.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. And he's come back up and he's got these, they were like lobsters.
Langoustine.
They're this long. And what he's done, he's bust them up into bits, and then just filled his treble. So it's just a musher. and he's waggling it at me. He says, "Is that all right?" I said, "Perfect." What else can I say? What else can I say? Oh, I can tell you a few stories. Dennis White, right? Love him to bits. He's one of my heroes. He always has been. And I said to Dennis one day, "You fancy doing a bit of salmon fishing?" "Salmon fishing, Fabber? That's joking." I said, "Come down with me. You'll really enjoy it, Dennis." And I took him down, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, thoroughly enjoyed it. So for a number of years, I used to take him once or twice a year. I used to pay everything. I'd say, "Dennis, come and pick you up. We'll go down." And it, with Dennis, became very, very, very competitive.
Even salmon fishing.
Even salmon fishing. Now, I'm sure he'll tell you that I'm telling the truth here. He could not beat me on shrimping.
Could he not?
No. Dennis, if you're arguing with me now, you couldn't. You know it. I used to say, "Get on that peg, Dennis. You know it's a flyer, right? Always a salmon in there." And he'd get in it, and I'd go above him or below him and go, "I'm in, Dennis." And he's not had a fair. He said, "No matter what I did, I could not beat him," Dennis used to say. But between us, we had loads and loads of fish. He'll be the first to tell you that. And we've had some magnificent fish together, some magnificent times. I loved every minute of that salmon fishing with him.
Can you take me and Frankie and we'll do a vlog?
Absolutely.
Do you think we could do it? Seriously?
Yes.
What time of year is best, and can we do it?
Well, you can't take a salmon, you can't fish a bait until June 16 on any salmon river now.
Right.
June 16. So anytime after June 16, you know, we can fish baits and things. And I mean, I'd take you down, you do everything. You do a bit of spinning, a bit of fly fishing if you wanted to, but the shrimping side of it, you'd absolutely love.
I'd be happy. Bollow, shrimps, that's all I want to do.
Lovely. Don't have a bet with me, though.
I'm not going to. Well, we'll have a bet. Whoever
You can see it coming.
whoever catches the least has to buy dinner for the rest of us.
You're on.
Me, you and Frankie.
You're on.
And we could use our kit. We could use a 15-foot float rod.
Yeah, well, I fish a 12-foot float rod. Two-piece
Oh.
12-foot float rod. It's like basically a barbel rod.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got one of
with
them.
a bit of action, you know, not too stiff. You don't want it stiff. You want something like at least a 15, 20-pound main line. Mm-hmm. And then your hook length, I normally fish 12 or 15 hook length. But in mono, I go braid all the way through because you want it to float line all the time.
Okay.
You don't want any sink in it at all. So I use braid main line and then a mono hook length.
Sounds great.
I can supply... You'll have bollow floats, but I've got bollow floats, I've got trebles and all that. I can supply all of that, and we'll go down. Now, there's a little story here. I've never really been challenged about this, but a couple of years ago, and I really look forward to my few days salmon fishing, you know. I've travelled all the way there. I've got to the pub, stay in a little pub called the Station Hotel. It's a... Call me little pub, really, but you get a nice meal. Bed's clean, rooms are clean, and it's cheap.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Right. And I got there, and all the lads that I know were waiting for me. And they were all sort of half-cut and everything else. And there was a bloody Scotsman there who I'd never met in my life. As soon as I walked in, he says, "You think you can fish the shrimp?" I think, you know. He says, "I'll show you how to fish the shrimp." He's gone. He says, "And the worm. I'll show you how to fish the worm as well." And I'm thinking, oh, God. Anyway, and Hutchie's laughing. And he kept going. Then it went, £100 says I can beat you on the shrimp. I know my Scottish bit's terrible here, but... And I said, 200 says I can. Then he went, £1,000 says I can. I said, "You're on." and I got my bag and I just walked away quick. And I went to reception, booked on, put my stuff in, come back down. And then they're all into the drink. And I said to Steve, "Is he serious?" And he's gone, "Yeah. I know who my money's on," he said. "It's not him." Right. So the next day, bearing in mind I haven't fished, I've only just arrived. Next day, we're down on the river. And the dam, dam up the way is putting water in, right? And when they put keel that opens the water up, it's dodgy. It makes the fish move, but the temperature and the oxygen isn't good. So we got down there and I thought, this is going to be hard. Anyway, I picked my spot, and he's gone a yard away from me.
What?
If I moved 10 yards, he was there, with me. So he stuck to me like a magnet,
The Scotsman.
the Scotsman. I'm fishing a bellow float. He's like freelining with a bit of lead on. And he's adamant he's going to beat me. Anyway, we've gone about half an hour. Clunk. I'm in. Got this fish out. Not a big one, £14 maybe.
Big enough.
Yeah, it was an hour match. And that was the only fish caught.
Yeah.
That was the only fish caught. And do you know, I never took his £1,000.
I'd
I
have took
should have done, shouldn't I?
Why didn't you take a
Should've
grand
done.
off him?
I should have done. 100% should have done.
Comments
did you
would be
do?
going mad.
Just shook his,
He
shook
never
his
even
hand.
buy dinner. I just said, there you go. There you go.
Just fish for pride.
I just said to him, never take on a bet like that again, boy.
So when are we going then?
Well, if you
my
want-
diary's packed.
Yeah.
But what's the latest we can go?
A good month to go is any time in September or the first 2 weeks in October.
Oh,
the reason
perfect.
I say the first 2 weeks in October, you go any later and you have a chance of loads of leaves on the river. Loads
Okay.
of leaves coming off, get on the top, just kills you.
Right.
Mate, you're going to need to sort of budget for £1,000 as well for this shoot.
No.
Oh, are you coming, are you? You're coming?
No, that's his bet. He's just said he's going to bet you as well, hasn't
£1,000.
he?
Maybe then.
No, he ain't.
First week of October, 6th, 7th, that sort of time.
Yeah.
We'll sort it out.
Right, well, I'll speak to you. It's all about, we need to just keep in touch and be a little bit flexible, because if your river's in flood, you'll be going up wasting your time.
Okay.
The river's got to be right. But I will guarantee you 100%, two of you and Frankie,
Yeah.
I'll guarantee 100% both of you. Have you never caught a salmon?
I have never caught a salmon.
Frankie?
He's never caught a salmon.
100% guarantee you'll catch some salmon.
That's ridiculous.
I'm telling
can't
you.
Wait.
I'm telling you.
Honestly, I can't wait.
I've had as many as 13, 14 in a day.
That's ridiculous.
Not doing it now, but in the past I've had.
Right.
And I've been down, had a week's fish and had 28, 30 fish.
Right, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're
We'll do
doing
it.
it. We'll
We'll film
definitely
it
do
all.
it. And my best fish, just short of £40.
£40.
If you look in my cafe at Larford Lakes, I've got one above. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's £32.
I'd love to catch one.
There you
I'd
go.
love to catch one.
You'll cack your pants when you hook one.
It sounds amazing.
You'll cack your pants. It'll do 50 metres run on you in about 3 seconds.
We could even see if Dennis fancies it.
If he can get around, he'd love it.
We'll see how he's doing.
Carry him, couldn't we?
Of course we could.
And drown him.
Of course we could. I need to speak to him about getting him on here.
Yeah.
We need to definitely do Dennis on Podcast Tobes. Yeah.
absolutely.
You've given me a few inspirational guests today. Andy Kinder would probably do a good one as well.
Yeah.
Boo would probably do a good one.
Boo would be brilliant.
Yeah.
If he's sober.
Yeah. We'd give him. He'd need a couple of pints to chill him out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You've definitely given us a few.
Can I just say something as well about Dennis? I mean, he's so competitive, isn't he?
Of course you can.
Did I tell you about them big bream he caught at Larford or not?
No, you didn't.
Right. I'm pretty sure we haven't talked about this. Andy came to do a Waggler feature with me when I was at Maver.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Andy Kinder.
Kinder.
Okay.
And Dennis came to do a piece on the feeder. And it was going to be with Gareth Purnell, who was then with Improve Your Course Fishing magazine.
I know Gareth, yeah.
Right. And we got them together. Andy Kinder forgets to bring his Waggler rod. I said, you pillock. I lent him a rod. Anyway, got him going. And he's fished by the island. It was one big lake then, right? One big lake.
Mm-hmm.
He's fished by the island, bottom island, and he's catching a roach chuck, and he was good roach. I mean, 12 ounce, pound and a quarter. Good roach. Dennis is over on the shallow bank of the Spetty Lake, and we're looking across. He's got his head down, catching nothing. We went probably 2 hours, nothing. And then I looked across and said, hey, up, he's got one, Andy. And I've like homed in as best I could. I says, looked like a big fish that he's landing. Anyway, back to Andy. I looked across again. He's got another one. I said, I'm going round. He's got another one. I'm going to see what he's catching. So I've literally run round. I've got to him, stood on the top of the bank, and he's just inching away like this, pulling away. And then he's lifted the rod to bring it to the top to net it. And it's a bream. And I said, Jesus Christ, Dennis. I said, that's massive. He says, I wants to see the other two in net feather they can't swim round. Right? And I've gone, right, okay. Anyway, I've stopped with him then, and I've watched him catch total 5 bream. And they were like 8, 9, 10 pounders, these bream.
Ridiculous.
And Gareth Parnell's come round, and Dennis says, "Now then, fella, we should photograph these because they'll go red, which bream do if you have them in the net too long." He says, "No." So he's got them laid out on the top of the bank, and there's these 5 bream. And Dennis is doing his little pose and everything. He's showing his teeth, like he used to, And I've gone, right. Andy's jumped off the bank down to his tackle. He says, "I'll look after your rods for you while down there," because he's left one chucked in, which is a very dangerous thing to do at Larford Lakes, let me tell you. Right. So Andy's sat on his box there. He's having another picture taken, and Kindy's shouted up, "I'm in here, Dennis." He's turned around, he's looked at him. Yeah. He's looked at him again. And he said, "Good, look at the size of this, Den." And up it's popped. And it was easy, and it was £12, this fish.
That's
Bream.
mad.
Dennis is gone. "There's not claiming that, fella. There's not claiming that." He says, "Mark has mad. There's not claiming that, fella." Anyway, we got it out, and it was a £12 fish. And days like that will stay with me forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
And that's when it was one big lake.
One big lake. Yeah,
Absolutely
one big
awesome.
lake. Yeah.
I've actually tweaked we always do some quick fire questions. I know I've not even teed you up for this because I know that you'd be fine. And you just,
would you?
Yeah.
Well, if I don't answer it, that's what it is.
Yeah. What did you say earlier? You said something like, "You can ask me, but I might not tell you."
That's right. You can ask me, but I might not answer you.
All right. This could be that part of the podcast, but
Right.
basically at the end of them all, we have a little set of questions. I've tweaked them a little bit for you because I think that you've got some good answers. But they're just quick fire. Want
Right.
some like punchy, thoughtful, but punchy answers.
Is this a game?
No, it's not a game.
Right.
It's about you and about fishing and your opinion.
Just a quick fire question.
Yeah.
We have to take your first answer, and
That's it.
first thing comes to your head.
Right.
Are you ready?
Ready?
Phil Briscoe, quick fire questions. Who do you rate as the best angler you've ever fished with, dead or alive?
Dennis White.
Great answer. Phenomenal. What is the best fishing product you've ever used?
A pole.
Any particular one?
Yeah, a Maver one, of course.
Which one were your favourite ever?
I used to like the 51 series, the top level ones.
Top level?
Yeah.
Right, okay. What's the worst thing about fishing and how would you fix it?
Oh, worst thing about fishing. Attitude.
We've touched on that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Great answer. If you only had one day left to go fishing, where would you go and who would you go with?
I'd go on the River Tyne with Stephen Hutchinson.
Not me and Frankie.
Well, it depends. We'll see how good you are.
And if fishing didn't exist, Phil, what sport or hobby would you do?
Fishing didn't exist. What sport or hobby would I do? I'm too old to play football. If I was young enough, I'd play football.
Right. Great answers.
Not really. Daft one, really.
No, I like it. And also, do you have a gift to leave to mark your place coming on this podcast? Because I've been trying to get you on for a long time, and it's been great.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have.
Come on, then.
Do you want it?
Yeah, I do as well.
Right. It's only that, look. Right.
Oh, what's that?
That is a section winner's John Smith Award. John
Wow.
Smith off the River Avon.
From
right?
Evesham.
From Evesham. Not easy to get.
Not easy at all.
Now, do you want to tell you a quick story about it?
Definitely.
Right, well, I won that. I don't know how many years ago that was, but, it's 2003. It's engraved on there.
22 years ago.
22 years ago.
Christ.
Now, we were invited to fish the John Smiths,
Yeah.
the team event, and the individual. This is the individual. Right?
Okay.
We didn't win anything on the teams. Individual, I won my section. And I drew down at Huxley's, somewhere down there.
Down at the cafe.
As they say, crap trawl.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, right, I'm just going to sit here. It's bottomless. It's really deep. I thought, I ain't fishing for bleak or hanging on to a pole all day long for one bite off an eel. I'll fish for bits. So I did a little ground bait mix. I don't think Bloodworm and Joker was allowed because I hadn't got it with me. If it was, I'd definitely have had it with me. I just fished pinky and squat in the feed, and I fished for gudgeon and little roach. And I'm banging these gudgeon and little roach out, and I've got about 3.5 pound, £4 maybe, about halfway through, and I got a bit of a crowd because nobody was catching anything. Not down that end anyway. Got a bit of a crowd, and then I'm literally about to swing this gudgeon to hand, and a pike's had a go at it. Boom, boom. I thought, right. So I got off my box, and there was a bloke sat behind me who shouldn't have come that side of the ropes, but he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've just come back from Sweden on the Swedish festival, all line to hand work, big fish swinging a minute in your chest with them and all that sort of thing, I said, in the bag there, I've got all the whips. I said, I'm going to get one out and I'm going to catch that pike. Right. Anyway, I've got it in and I've got it. I'm all rigged up, all clipped up inside my bag in them days, and I've got this like 8 metre line to hand pole out, and I've literally never plumbed it, nothing. I just put 2 lobs on, right, swung it out about where the fish had a strike at me, and it's instantly gone wallop down. He said, strike. I said, no, hang on. Pike, you see. And I've watched this float under the surface, and it's just doing this, and then it's run. I said, it's on now. Wallop! And I got this pike on. Right. It's gone straight into the reeds at the side of me, as far in as it could have possibly gone. I thought, bloody hell. So I just jumped in the river.
Right.
Yeah. I've just jumped in the river. I got my shorts on, in fairness, but I jumped in the river, got my landing net and stabbed the reed bed, and this, sweet as a nut, this pike's come out and I've netted it. It's about £4, right? Because I think I won the section was nearly £8, right? But nice pike in there, like. And it's gone on the tannery system instantly. How, I don't know. Roger Mortimer was doing the commentary, right? David Allslot. And he said, we've just heard Phil Briscoe's just landed a £9 pike. Well, I haven't, Anyway, I've got this fish out, and it's killed the section total, like, lovely. And that's where I got that from. Of course, they banned pike after that because people used to fish for them jigging about, didn't they?
With a lobworm or two,
With a lobworm. Well, I just went in, what I thought was to depth, and caught this pike, and that helped me to win that.
What a great story.
Very hard to get, and I say 2003, it's all yours.
And you're happy to leave that with us?
I'm giving you that.
Going in the cabinet.
Absolutely. We'll
Look
find
at
a
that.
space for it.
Thank you very much, Phil.
You're very welcome.
That's awesome. I've got to say, thanks for a great conversation. I've been itching to do this one with you for a while. I know I mention it every time I come to Larford, but I've got a lot of respect for what you've done in the industry, in fishing, on so many different levels, product-wise, media and marketing-wise. I'd love to talk to you even more about that. It's been great.
It's about enthusiasm.
Of course it is.
Media, marketing, advertising, it's about enthusiasm. Don't forget that.
The fishery side of it, the event side of it, I really appreciate how much you've done, the experience you've got, and a lot of the stuff that you've done for fishing. So on behalf of a lot of people, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, thank you for sharing everything with us today. It's been awesome.
You're very welcome.